Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Babylon 5 Retrospective, episode 21. We're on. This week on the program, we're
22.
looking at, no, well, this is our episode 21, but we're looking at episode 22 from the show, Chrysalis. But before we get into that, let me welcome my co host, the man with butterflies in his stomach. It's Cam. Say hello, Cam.
Good evening, everybody.
Good
Welcome
evening,
to our
everyone.
season 1 wrap up.
No, it's not the season 1 wrap up. That's next week.
Well, the last episode of season 1 is
The
what
last episode of season 1. That's true. Yes.
next week's our season 1 review.
Our review. All right. Let's I'm gonna bring in our guest co-hosts right away. And then we'll talk a little bit and then we'll get on to the show. Let's bring in Madman and Death Angel Shadow.
And so it begins.
It begins. It begins.
Hello.
Yes, it is.
It begins.
Hello, Cam.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Who we got in the chat?
I felt
I
that.
see Michael's in the chat and Dave's in the chat so far.
We got a couple.
Anyone else is must be lurking. All right. We I don't know about what's up with you guys today, but it's pretty big around here. Let me just we have our local sports ball team has a big first game of they're going for the cup. It's right now. I was watching it. I don't know what's happening now. I think they're into I think they're going to overtime.
The Toronto Blue Jays, or
It's the Edmonton Oilers versus the Florida Panthers. I mean, Florida, that's not even a real place, is it? I mean, it's just a swamp filled.
the only thing I've ever seen
Shouldn't
there.
even be allowed to.
I've seen Iron Maiden in that stadium. So to me, that's the Iron Maiden stadium that they're from.
They shouldn't even. It's not even a real place. Come on.
Florida, well, Florida's real. Trust me.
Right, I think I'm just thinking of live. Yeah, it's 3-3 still. I think they're in. They're getting ready to start the overtime pretty soon. But,
They have overtime in that game.
They do because someone's got to win.
It's
So
such a low scoring game.
Yeah.
If I'm
it's
might as well watch
Canada.
baseball. Oh wait,
We
baseball.
like hockey. All right. Drake is in the thing as well. So it
And
begins.
so it
Everyone's
begins,
with
yeah.
the quote of so it begins.
Everybody watched it.
Yeah, everyone watched the show. All right.
Good.
Anything else going on with anybody else before we get? That's what's going on around here. Anyone else? Anything else going on before we get into the?
No, all the same on this end.
You're watching this the sports ball game too? Is that what you're saying?
Who, me? No.
Yeah.
Oh,
No.
I haven't watched sports in a long time.
Nobody.
Even though our Knicks just lost the championship
is that
basketball.
Oh, I don't watch that either. I watch baseball and college football. So
See, Drake's free bonus hockey. That's right.
Drake. There you go. Yeah.
I'm not a big. I don't watch sports usually, but and normally I don't watch hockey in the. I think I've said this before. I think I said this last year when they were in the finals as well. Normally I don't watch hockey regularly because it's all they just skate around and they just blah, blah. But playoffs, big
it's like
They actually-
NASCAR.
actually play.
You're always looking for the fights. So
Yeah.
Well,
They actually play in the and it's pretty exciting. What I've watched is some pretty close calls and everything.
yeah.
You know.
Last time I saw a hockey game, I was actually in Ontario at a bar in Niagara Falls, and the Leafs were playing. Was it the Kings or something like that? This was like 92, something like that. And when the bartender said, "Hey, if the Leafs win, kamikazes go down to a quarter," I said, "Go Leafs!"
Nobody likes
I
the
can
Leafs
be
ball.
bought.
Nobody
Well, here in YouTube, I don't know if it's still going on. They used to have a wiffle ball league.
really
Yeah, and they used to
awesome.
do it. Play it on there, and then I think the playoffs were live.
Did you see that softball pitch where the pitcher's cleats threw up dirt and the softball they caught it on the high speed camera. The softball actually went right through the dirt and knocked it into the catcher's eyes. The dirt. She caught the ball, but she got an eye full of particles of, dirt. It was pretty sad. I'm like, dang, that's a 1 in a million shot.
Yeah.
I don't know. Anyway, enough sports ball.
All right. Are we ready to get into it?
Unless you win.
Yeah.
Then
I
you
think
can
we've waited long enough.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah.
Let's
20,
do,
20,
let's go with
22
trivia.
episodes. Yeah. I mean, this technically is our, because the pilot. So this is our 23rd episode that we've watched.
Yeah.
So,
All right. Let's go with, let's do our trivia from last week, and then we'll jump right into the show.
Yep.
Talking about this episode. All right. Let's get the, hold on here. All right. I think I got it set up now. Questions from last week. Just shout them out in the chat if you know the answers. From last week's episode, The Quality of Mercy, episode 21. How do Dr. Rosen's patients pay for her services? Where did Lando take Lanier to give him a more practical education? What was the sentence given to Mueller by Ombuds Wellington? How many Minbari dialects and subtongues can Lanier speak? And who is the Centauri goddess of passion? Right? Anybody know? It's all a big... Let's just put it out there. So they pay for her services by donation, of course. Londo took Lanier to a bar, which was called the Dark Star. Well, it's a strip club, I guess. The actual sentence that the Ombuds mentions is called the death of personality. He actually said that. And Minbari dialects and tongues. Lanier can speak 97, apparently. That's a lot. And the Centauri goddess of passion is Lee. All right.
The bar name is a classic sci-fi movie from back in the day.
Dark Star.
Dark Star.
Oh yeah.
Right. Okay. So I guess we should jump right into the episode. Let's go. Oh wait, how many Minbari does it take to screw in a light bulb? No, 1.
3. Everything takes 3 with them. They like they like 3s. I don't know.
All right, let's go. Cam's going to give the episode summary. I'm going to give the detailed, quick read through of the summary, and then we'll jump right in.
Notes.
The crib notes. Yes. Go ahead, Cam.
All right. Episode 22, season finale of season 1. Chrysalis, written by J. Michael Straczynski, aired in the United States originally on October 26, 1994, and it was 112 in the production order, or the 12th episode filmed. A Narn outpost adjacent to Centauri space ignites a conflict between the two races when Londo gets an offer to take care of the problem. Meanwhile, Garibaldi tries to find out what his informant stumbled upon that got him killed. That's kind of a insufficient summary, but I'm sure you'll fill in the holes.
This was 12th in filming?
Yeah, so it was quite early.
Wow.
Interesting, eh?
Interesting that it's we'll get to that, but it's a cliffhanger.
Yeah.
They obviously had some plans.
All
right. Let's go through the details. So, episode starts off. You've got Jakar and Londo in the council with the other races all around, and they have some sort of conflict over Quadrant 37. Londo says something a little impolite, and Jakar, leaves. Doesn't really storm off. He says, "I'll come back when everyone is more reasonable or civilized." Off he goes. And next, we get to the next scene, and there is a guy who we find out later his name is Petrov. He's in the part of the station. It looks like the arrivals area. Garibaldi is there. He stumbles in. He's bleeding, falls down, passes out, and says, "They're going to kill him." And Garibaldi calls for medic. And that's cut to the intro. Who? Yeah, cut to the intro. Next scene, you've got Garibaldi, Sinclair, and Ivanova. They're talking in the med lab. We get some background on Petrov how he's a lurker, but Garibaldi apparently uses him as an informer right now, so he's a narc. The doc comes in and tells him Petrov's dead, and Garibaldi basically says, "I'm going to find out who he was referring to when he said they're going to kill him."
Right.
Off he goes. Then we go to Sinclair and his girlfriend Catherine.
She's back.
Yeah, she's back in his quarters. They're watching a news report about the presidential trip, which actually I'll note this, that Garibaldi says, "I'm going to find out who," he's like, "We got to find out who they're going to kill," and then it cuts right away to a news program about the president.
Yeah.
And then
Foreshadowing.
no foreshadow there. And then Sinclair beats around the bush and makes an awkward marriage proposal, which she agrees to. That's like
April?
the worst marriage proposal I've ever
How's
seen.
April?
Ever seen.
July's better.
Anyway, then we go to Londo and Veer. We get some information about the Centauri gods, how apparently there's 50 or something of them, and
they're trying to count.
They're trying to figure out how many. And it seems
Well, you can't count the last one, really.
Yeah, and the Emperor they just seem to add them on, and it seems to be the Emperor elevate themselves, something like that.
You don't like Zoog? You don't want to count Zoog?
So, excuse me. So, hold on. Oh, what was that?
Don't die on us now, snob.
Yeah,
We already lost Jason. Oh, he's not dead though.
So, so the Emperor gets, they seem to be a little cynical about their gods. They just elevate some guy. Londo complains that his government has said that they'll be giving up Quadrant 37 to the Narns. Basically, he's going to have to eat it and go to Jakar and say, "Yeah, all right, fine, you win." And then a character that we've seen before calls him and wants a meeting. We find out that character's name is Morden. I don't think we knew that from before.
Yeah, we did.
Or did we?
Yeah,
Or Londo didn't know.
Londo didn't know his
Londo
name was
didn't
Morden. Somebody else, who was it who did know that his name was Morden? I don't know. We could talk about that.
Yeah.
Carry on.
Let's get
through this.
Then we have Lynn talking to Lanier about Kosh. Did you tell him what I told you? Did he say it exactly? And he says yes. And the Lynn appears to be building something while she's talking to him. Next, we go to Garibaldi. He's down below. He is asking around about Petrov. He kind of gets the cold shoulder from everybody, which is what you'd expect from the head of security. However, one lurker does get his attention and gives him information on what Petrov was doing and gives him a name who Petrov did a job for that he was sort of scared about afterwards. The name is Devereaux. So next we go to Londo and Morden. They're in the park talking. Londo expresses some feelings about himself being old and resigned to his position in life. Morden tells him that he will take care of Quadrant 37 for him. And of course, Londo, being the old diplomat, asks sort of what price, and don't worry about it. Next, we go to Delin. She's talking to Kosh. She says something about how she has doubts. Kosh flashes her or something. I don't know, the equivalent of a flash. I'm not sure what.
I could. Well, we could talk about that again too.
She says, "Yes, thank you," and mentions, "You will not see me again as I am now."
Well,
we're back to the casino and the party there.
It's New Year's Eve.
It's New Year's Eve. I forgot to mention earlier. New Year's Eve, so there's a party going on. Garibaldi goes in there and he finds Devereaux and two of his buddies. Talks to them. They don't want to come and answer any questions. He basically twists their arm a little bit and takes them in for says, "Come on in for questioning," and they finally agree. Next, we have Londo and Veer. Londo tells Veer that he will take care of Quadrant 37. Veer is, I guess it would be understatement to say shocked. He kind of looks at Londo like he might be crazy.
Are you drunk?
Or drunk.
I thought we were in another universe.
How are you going to take
Yeah.
care of it, right? But yeah, he tells them, "Don't worry about it. Off you go." Next, we go back to Jakar's quarters. Sinclair comes into Jakar's quarters, and Natoth is there. Tells him that the ambassador is busy, he can't see her. The door to his bedroom, I guess, opens. A bunch of female humans come out. I think they're human, and she says, "I think he's free now. Yeah, you can see him." Jakar comes out. He's obviously in some sort of nightgown or something like that. They talk. Sinclair says he wants you to be a little more flexible with Centauri. Jakar says, "No, we're gonna carry on." And Sinclair mentions that he feels he's at a crossroads, and Jakar doesn't agree. He just seems a little thoughtful. Next, we go back to Sinclair, his girlfriend, Catherine, Ivanova, and Garibaldi. They're all eating at the
What's the
fancy
name of the
restaurant.
restaurant? Yeah,
I don't know, but they're all
We've heard the
eating
name before.
in that fancy restaurant they always seem to eat in.
Yeah.
And they ask Garibaldi and Ivanova to be the best man and a maid of honor, respectively.
Mhm.
Garibaldi takes the call. Devereaux is, quote, gone, even though he was being sort of held in security. And before Garibaldi rushes off to find out what's going on, he mentions that there's no numbers on the PPGs that they have, and that is something that special agents or people working for the Earth government normally have. So, it's interesting. Next, we cut to Quadrant 37 and the cockpit of a Narn pilot. He says the sector's all clear, and then all of a sudden, a bunch of ships appear, shadowy looking ships, surprise everybody, and start blasting everything. And yeah,
we've seen these before too.
A lot of things explode. Next, we have Ivanova is in the CNC. Everything's quiet. She's got her feet up and she's watching the news. And we find out the little piece of news that the vice president is sick and he's not on the ship with the president.
That's odd.
Next scene, we have Garibaldi and his aide, they call him. I don't think we ever have a name for him. And Garibaldi's checking crates and they're talking. Somehow Garibaldi finds out that there's a bunch of stuff in here. These are not medical supplies. These are jammers, and they seem to be set to the president's channel, his communication channel. Garibaldi figures something out and calls for an ultraviolet level alert, and rushes off. And then the camera lingers on his aide, and he makes this weird call to somebody. Next, we have Garibaldi in the corridor, and Devereaux. He comes upon Devereaux. They talk, not well. There's a little bit of exchange, and then Garibaldi is shot in the back by his aide, who I'm basically calling traitor from now on. Next, we go to Sinclair's quarters. He's been looking for Garibaldi. He says, maybe he's coming here. He hears a knock at the door. He says, Garibaldi, there you are. Or Michael, there you are. But it's not Garibaldi. It's Delin. She asks him about the Battle of the Line. Do you remember? There's a little flashback. Delin says, both of our lives are at risk, unquote. And she wants him to come and see her in her quarters to talk. So mystery. That's about all we get from that. Next, we see Garibaldi crawling down a corridor. I feel sorry for him when he had to do that. Just crawl.
How do you push the buttons?
Anything for acting.
How do you push the buttons?
Next, it cuts to Jakar and Natoth. Jakar's in his office quarters area that we usually see him in. Natoth comes in. She gives him the news about how the Quadrant 37 outpost has been destroyed. And Jakar quickly figures out, it couldn't be the humans. It couldn't be these guys. Couldn't be these guys. There must be another sort of faction or group involved. comes to that
Right.
very quickly. Then we cut back to Garibaldi, and he's crawling he's made it down the end of the corridor. He's crawling to the elevator. He pushes the button and pulls himself half dead into the elevator. Next, we cut again to the New Year's Eve party. Garibaldi arrives. The elevator opens. Two civilians are going to the elevator. The elevator opens. Garibaldi's lying there, bleeding, and she screams.
Scream. Yeah.
Next, we go to Delenn and Lanier. Lanier is questioning Delenn's decision, which we don't really know what she has decided. But she seems pretty strong that she's going to carry on with it. And she puts the little triangle thing on the top of that thing that she's been
napkin
building.
holder. The napkin
she's
holder.
been building. The triluminary, I guess it was.
Try napkin holder.
And yeah. Next, we go to the med lab, and it's chaos in there. They've got Garibaldi. They're rushing him in. People are running around. The doctor's yelling about how badly he's damaged. He's been shot in his spleen and all these, it sounds pretty bad. But Garibaldi manages to pull the oxygen off him to go to Sinclair and is able to tell him they're going to kill the president on Io.
Yep.
We cut to the next scene. Sinclair and Ivanova are in the CNC. They're trying to get the information out, but all the channels are jammed. They can't seem to get in contact with anybody anywhere. And then the news is there at the same time they're watching the news, and then the newscaster says something about how the president's 10 minutes late doing his speech, and they cut to a live feed or something, and we see the president's ship exploding, and how it's basically impossible for anyone to survive that. Next is back to the med lab. Sinclair, he's sort of watching over Garibaldi. We find out that Garibaldi has a 50-50 chance, and Sinclair orders the traitor to find Devereaux. I don't know how that's going to go.
Yeah.
Next scene, Lanier is crying. That's about it. He's sad about whatever Delenn is doing. Next, we have Jakar and Natoth. They're in the subway transportation system that goes throughout Babylon 5. Ivanova comes in, and Jakar says that he offers his condolences about the president, and Natoth mentions that the Narn will have their revenge about Quadrant 37. Next, we cut to Morden and Londo. Londo back in the park. Londo's upset with Morden. He's like, I didn't know that this was going to happen. You killed a whole bunch of Narn. And Morden, of course, says, who cares how many Narn are dead? You don't care. They're your sworn enemy. He says, Londo, you'll be a hero, and your government's not even going to care about how you did this sort of thing. Next, we go back to Sinclair, and he's in his office. He's talking to a senator. He's talking about the evidence that he has that the president might have been assassinated. She doesn't seem to care, and she orders him not to talk and don't start any rumors.
We got to talk about that.
We can talk about all these things.
Yeah.
Next, we go to the traitor. He is there in some sort of cargo area. Other security officers come in, and he's explaining how he had to kill Devereaux and his buddies. They pulled a gun on him.
Well, did we see Devereaux? I don't know if we saw Devereaux.
Yeah, I think he was.
We saw the other two guys, his thugs.
I think he was dead too. And one of the other security officers, says, Devereaux's. The traitor mentions that they shot on him first, and the other security officer says, well, his PPG is cold. It's usually not cold when they fire them, implying that the traitor killed them in cold blood, perhaps. But he just says, mind your own business, or what are you trying to say? And the other guy's like, nothing. That's the end of that. Next, we go back to Med Lab, and they're starting surgery on Garibaldi. Then we have Sinclair. He's in his, I think he's in his office, and he's watching news. The new president is being sworn in. Kosh appears out of nowhere and says the classic line, and so it begins. Reminds Sinclair that there is, did he forget to do something? And he goes, oh, I'm supposed to see Delenn. He runs off to Delenn's quarters. He is too late. Lanier is there. Lanier says that she's in a Chrysalis, and she's changing Sinclair says, "Into what?" And Lanier says, "I don't know." Next, we go back to the Natoth is in Jakar's office quarters, where he usually does all the stuff. There's a message that comes up from Jakar. He says he's gone to the homeworld. He acts very mysterious, but he suggests that he knows something about what happened in Quadrant 37. That's all we get. Next, we have Londo and Ivanova in Med Bay. Ivanova's there. Londo comes in. Londo says that he's going to stay and watch over Garibaldi, and seems like he's a bit sad about that. Next, we have Morden. He's talking to some sort of shadowy things in what looks like a room of some, like a quarters or a room or some type. Mentioning that Londo suspects nothing and implies that they have him sort of wrapped around their finger. We go back to Sinclair and his girlfriend, Catherine, in their quarters, and Sinclair remarks, "Nothing is the same anymore." And then we cut to the last shot. Lanier has a candle out. And that is the end of the episode. Will Jakar survive? Or sorry, will Garibaldi survive? What is the land turning into? Will the traitor be caught? What does Jakar know? Will Sinclair still get married? Tune in next season.
Yeah.
I just made up that last stuff. That's not actually a show.
Nope.
But yeah.
I have to throw this quote in. Yeah, I have to throw this quote in. It's from another science fiction series, which was the quote is based on Winston Churchill. "This is not the end. This is not the beginning of the end. It is the end of the beginning."
Fascinating.
All right. Okay, yeah.
Where do we start?
Who else came in the chat? Let's just say, K. Roberts came in. James
K.
jumped
Roberts,
in.
yeah.
Who else?
Drake is here.
Yeah. All right. Welcome.
We got a few people out there.
Let's get into it. Who wants the answers? Where do we want to start?
Well,
let me before we start, let me just mention that Jason is back, heading back home on his from his trip. He is not going to be here tonight. Obviously, he's coming back from his trip from California. He's in Nebraska right now. So,
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think he's driving back to Kansas. So yeah. Anyway, all right, let's go. Who would like to begin? Let's let our guest host, Madman, start off. What do you want to talk
about? Where do we start on this? I mean, there's a lot to ingest on just all of this alone. And, like I said in the past on other streams, that, everything has been leading to this. And there have been a lot of, for example, the Chrysalis, that was mentioned in that other episode where the girl had the powers and she delved into the Len's mind and saw the term Chrysalis. Now we know what it is. What is happening to her now? What has she done to herself? And this also goes back to when she was with the Grey Council and what they said, if you want to do this, this is to the point on there. And if you notice this, Kosh hasn't been seen too much in season 1.
Right.
It's like you saw him in the beginning, in the middle, and now you got him at the end.
It was shocking to see him in the council at the beginning because they made a note before that he doesn't attend council meetings, and they're having something that seems like probably a relatively mundane argument about the Narn and
territorial,
Centauri,
blah blah blah. Yeah.
But he's there, so I noticed that right away. It was like, oh, that's something.
Yeah,
different.
that was. Yeah, well, since you're talking about that council, let me just mention that I felt that. Jakar was a little bit of a performance, eh? Like he's normally fairly passionate about these things, yelling at Londo and sort of thing, but he seemed pretty kind of calm there. He didn't seem to be his usual. And I think it's probably all performance, but it's interesting that he's putting on, the performance that he's putting on is very much less Jakar than normal. He's just kind of like, you're going to insult me, I'm going to leave, la la la.
But I think that the nature of what they were talking about there was very important because Londo has him dead to rights. It's like he's violating the treaty, and Jakar is basically just saying, well, that was under duress, so we're not following it. I mean,
but that's a legitimate point to make, though.
Well, perhaps philosophically, but
Yeah,
this
yeah,
is, this is their council. This is where they get together, this is their UN, and this is like someone saying, "Oh yeah, that agreement. Well, we're just disregarding that." I mean, that's a bold thing to be doing.
all right,
That's so. It's what I'm saying is it's significant because it's telling you where the Narn, what the Narn position is, and what they think they can get away with at this point.
right.
Oh, yeah, and
So
also
so
later
I just
on,
think,
go ahead.
well, yeah, I'm just gonna say, sorry, I was gonna say that. I mean, I'm kind of looking at why he's less animated. So are you like, I'm wondering if there's something in that. Maybe
Maybe
he's maybe
It's
he's
like,
serious. It's a
he's
serious
he's
well,
less
he
issue.
animated when he knows he has you over a barrel and
Well,
or he's gonna win,
I
or
think it's probably the opposite. I think that he
Londo
doesn't
has
really have a
him.
good answer for it, so it's like, I'm gonna just kind of walk away
be
because,
relaxed. Oh, he kind of knows he's in the wrong, so he's less
yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
perhaps.
Londo kind of is like, look, yeah, he appealed to the people in the council. He's like,
Yeah,
you know,
they
here
don't
it
follow
is,
their things,
right?
their
And don't forget
agreements.
later on, he gets his jiggy on with not one, two, but three ladies
Yeah,
of the
apparently
night.
he felt good about the whole situation,
Yeah.
Yeah.
or maybe he
All
was
right.
drowning his sorrows. Who knows?
Yeah,
Yeah.
but
Well, I'm
later
gonna.
on, you find out that Jakar's world was an agrarian world, and they never knew how to fight until the Centauri came, and they had to learn to fight.
Interesting.
Where that's what
For
Sinclair
the
had said.
species that's kind of implied to be the most
Pretty violent.
aggressive, and we've learned stuff similar to this. We hadn't learned that they were completely agrarian before their enslavement, I guess. It would be before the Centauri took them over.
Well, yeah, they've held them for what is it? Is it hundreds of
It was
years?
100 years, yeah.
100 years, something like
Yeah.
that. Yeah, and
The
they learned to fight. They learned to fight back.
Yeah, the agrarian could just kind of be more of a reference to what level of technology they were at. Like if they're primarily an agrarian
I
society,
don't
they could have been stuck in our world were primary agrarian until the
100 years
1900,
100 years
1900
ago.
or so.
Yeah.
So
Well, no,
that
they
could have
mentioned.
just
He
it could refer
mentioned
to that.
if you listen to what Captain the commander says, he says your planet was a beautiful planet full of plants and nature and all that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Concerning that their world was just rich with nature.
And
Yeah.
it was plundered by the
Yeah.
Centauri,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah.
So
So okay, I got more to talk about Jakara there, but we'll get to it
Okay.
later. But
Um,
Ken,
If I could just note for 1 second, and maybe you were going to talk about that, Madman. That there's, I think there's at least 4 plot lines going on in this episode. A, B,
easily.
C, and D.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
okay,
Yeah.
You want to go over what they are?
Okay, so you have the murder, which leads to the assassination plot. You've got
Right.
Delen's transformation, and all the stuff kind of surrounding her.
Right.
You've got Sinclair's marriage being arrived at. So kind of that's a
That's a
B plot,
minor.
personal
Yeah.
thing, sure. And then you got the Narn Centauri, which extends into the Londo and Morden stuff. So
Yeah.
quite a bit packed into this episode.
Yeah.
And the strange ships that have appeared, which appeared in the other episode where the pirates were destroyed by these same ships.
Yes. Yeah. When
Right.
when Londo got the eye.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Obviously related, right?
Yeah.
Good point.
Well,
Which
I think
is
that was
mentioned. It was mentioned. I didn't mention it in the thing, but the Morden, when he first contacts Londo at the beginning of the episode, he says, there was a comment about, oh yeah, thanks for the eye back, and
right.
Yeah.
And I didn't get your name, by the way, although I swear he gave it
Well,
to Mr. Morden. I'm pretty sure he said that.
I think he was gone when he asked him that. He was like, "Oh, I should buy you a drink, man." And then he was gone, right?
Oh yeah.
But Jason likes to talk about the pacing and how the things relate, and I think this episode is maybe the highlight of the whole season in terms of these things going together, and the way it's flipping back and forth seemed to really work well. The pacing, even though it was handling all these different things, it was really hitting.
They were juggling on all. They're firing on all cylinders. You think?
Yeah,
With this one,
exactly.
yeah.
I think so. What do you guys think?
Which is well, I mean, it was still some jump cuts that I think could have been
There
changed a
was
little
one
bit.
cut. I was like, "Whoa, what just happened?" It was
Yeah,
very
yeah, it was like
strange.
it
But
was very short. Yeah. But overall, yeah, I think you're right. I think were not for as many different plot lines as they were jumping back and forth between. They were definitely firing on all the cylinders
so
this time.
so what do you guys? Okay, so the murder plot thing going on, and Garibaldi tracking that, um and then we get the reveal about, I mean, very kind of quickly, his security guy there going, I forget what was his name.
Actually, there is. If
They
I
didn't
look
give
up
it a
the
name.
credits, it lists him as Garibaldi's assistant.
Okay.
Yeah, 8 or something.
Yeah, and that turned real quick. So I was like, oh, that surprised me a bit.
Now we have seen him before, right?
Yeah, he's been in several episodes.
Yeah.
And there are hints in those episodes that there's something not right about him, but they're very, very subtle.
Yeah.
So I mean, I didn't notice myself, but that the suggestion is that there's you might not even notice it on a second viewing after you've seen
I was gonna say
the whole thing.
I've now seen season 1 twice completely. So, and I think you're right. I recognized him and said, "Uh-oh." But I don't know if I caught on how bad he was even on a second viewing earlier on. And I freshly watched it literally an hour and a half ago, 2 hours ago. So and I knew right away. I'm like, oh yeah, he's a bad guy. I forgot.
So one of the suggestions is that about in the episode "And the Sky Full of Stars," he tried to cover up the payoff that Benson received from night 2, and it could be just you might watch that and just go, oh, he's incompetent, or he just didn't catch something, but you might also, hey, so there's apparently some of those things scattered in there.
Yeah, interesting that PPGs make you bleed.
Well,
or was the first guy not shot with a PPG?
Uh,
Yeah, he was though, right? Because they said, the PPG that they found had no serial.
Sorry,
no
I
serial
said he
number
was
on it.
bleeding out, but I don't think we actually saw
He
it.
was. No, he
well,
he
then
was.
he had blood like on the back of his
He had
arm,
blood,
on
but
the
he might have been
lightsaber.
stabbed.
That's what I'm. But didn't they find the PPG there?
No, that was Deverell's
that
PPG when he was arrested, and that I was going to bring up.
Okay.
Because to the point where Deverell's PPG had no serial number on it, and if you remember what Garibaldi
apparently
said,
you can't rub them off.
You can't rub them off.
No, they're.
How do you stamp them in there if you can't rub it off?
Well, I thought that was an interesting tidbit too, a little bit about their technology that we learned there. Maybe that doesn't interest other people, but I thought that was pretty cool.
But I think that's an important part, because Garibaldi says the only way you're going to get a PPG that has no number on it is if you work for Special Forces,
right?
Earth Force, the Special Division, and that puts back to the point what I've said in a couple of the other episodes that you notice that orders were coming from Earth Dome, but not from the proper people. That they're saying, "Oh yeah, it's this way," and then suddenly they turn around and say, "No, we can't do that."
Well, we've talked about there being clearly at least 3 or 4 factions at play, just in with the humans.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what? There was. Well, okay, so I think the whole thing with the assistant there, the way they played that was done very well in this whole episode. Him covering, it's like, oh yeah, I killed these guys. That's why my PPG was used, right? So he covered the fact that he shot Garibaldi. You know what I'm saying? And the other guy, of course, the other, hey, this is cold, and he just kind of put him off it. But that was even covering, because it's like, yeah, they didn't shoot, I just shot them. I mean, that's the implication that he's putting forward there. It's like, yeah, I took care of these guys, and
he
it was
was
kind of
ordered to clean up the
right, and
mess.
it was the
loose end.
blue code. It's like, oh, okay, I'm not turning in my own guy. He did the right thing, right?
Yeah.
They shot Garibaldi, or I'm sorry, no, it wasn't that he shot Garibaldi. So I guess there is a hole in there still about that. But
But
it's
Devereaux did warn Garibaldi that this was much bigger than
Yeah.
him.
And that could
Yeah.
be implied with the blue code, but it could also be implied that that maybe some of the other. I mean, Garibaldi just got shot, and he's the chief of security. Maybe there's another power coming in, and people are suggesting, hey, don't stick your nose into things. Maybe that was also implied to the other Earth, the security guard on Babylon 5 who said, "Oh, the PPG is cold." Maybe that's part of it too.
It could be. I took it much more as the, hey, you got to do what you got to do, kind of thing. It's like, I'm not going to turn in my own guy, I don't think he had any inkling that he had shot Garibaldi.
No, I don't either.
But
Sorry, you never got an inkling that the aide shot?
That the other guy knew that the assistant shot Garibaldi.
No, he wouldn't know that. He's just suspicious because hey, you say that these guys shot at you first, and then you
he understands that,
and he thinks of them as
just murdered those guys.
Well,
exactly.
But he also, if he's one of Garibaldi's men, and this is basically supposedly like what, his right hand man?
Yeah, his aide.
So if this is his right hand man and one of the underlings, one of Garibaldi's regular security officers, maybe he thinks, you know what, this might be a justified. We're gonna just
right.
Yeah. There's been suggestions in
these guys got Garibaldi.
I'm gonna look the other way.
Yeah.
So he got. I'm gonna look the other way, and I don't care.
I think
the
Chicago Police Department is very well known for that. If some criminal shoots a cop, that guy's not going to trial, right? They're gonna take care. They're gonna shoot him before he's whatever, and they'll cover up. So there could have been that kind of thing as well.
Well, just one other note. The other thing that I thought just worked well is, Sinclair's there and he's like, oh, we're going to have 24-hour security, blah, 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 blah. And then boom, who's he talking to? Right.
Yeah.
Right.
The exact wrong guy. So that was just a nice touch, I thought.
And there was another scene where I think it's near the scene where near the very end where Londo and Ivanova are like watching over Garibaldi, and this guy's standing in a different corner watching him from a different window, but the look on his face is kind of inscrutable. You're not sure what he's thinking, but
I think he's waiting. I think he's waiting for an opportunity. I think he's waiting for Susan
or hoping that Garibaldi dies on the
right. Yeah.
On the
I got
surgery. The question is, if Garibaldi does die, if he does, would this guy suddenly become the chief of security?
Probably at least acting chief.
So he's an aide. He's an aide. So I mean, normally the aide is not necessarily the second in command. The aide can be just a guy who's higher up, but not quite.
It was assistant,
but
wasn't
anyway.
It? Like the assistant.
Yeah, is it aide or assistant?
Maybe he's
assistant would be assistant chief.
Well, in any case, he seems
that would be second in command.
He seems to be taking charge, because Sinclair is telling him. It's like, okay,
Sinclair tells him what to do.
Yeah,
but, it is kind of implied that he's his number two.
Right. Yeah, so I thought I thought that, like you said, the look on that the actor did a good job in my opinion. He really
the one that played the assistant.
Yeah,
he did pretty. Absolutely. He did really good playing he played it straight until he was alone and he's like code whatever. I forget what was it, condition blue or something like that, code blue.
Yeah, code blue or something like that.
Some sort of code they have built themselves.
So what do you guys think about I'm just trying to hit the points here. Garibaldi did the police work and he tracked down and was like, oh, he figured it out right away. It's like they're doing something with the president's ship,
Right.
And
I thought that was a little bit weak with Garibaldi opens up these things, he sees some weird looking things,
and he knows what they are right away.
This is a transmitter.
This is a jammer.
Used for jammer. It was a little bit.
It's a 1 hour episode,
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
Tech, magic. It's magic.
But
Not Band-Aids.
one thing that was
yeah,
a little funny.
well, that was the best line, in that scene. No, definitely not Band-Aids.
One thing that did strike me as a little strange. It's like, oh, we've got an emergency. Meet me in 20 minutes. It's like, how about we meet right now? It's like, there was kind of a timer on this.
Well, I thought he meant I'm going to be there in 20 minutes. Take me 20 minutes to get from where I am.
Yeah, I guess
that's what I took it as. But I mean, I understand the whole. I'm not going to say it over the comm. It was that.
Yeah, right.
Important, but yeah.
Yeah, remember he was in what was it, the docking bay, and it takes some time to get from one place to the other.
Cargo bay or something. Yeah.
Yeah, the cargo bay.
Yeah, that's true.
But
it's a big
isn't
city.
security not too far away in the from the cargo bay? I mean, when the ships come in, they unload they unload cargo and passengers.
I have to look that up.
We know that they don't have security there.
Well, we found this out. Well, there's like the one poor slob that's usually working there in the cargo bay.
Yeah, gets killed.
The other
Always.
thing,
They should just give them red shirts.
Notable, we get these news reports and everything, and they talked about the president's ship leaving Mars, which I think the last time we heard about Mars is they were in the middle of a rioting and stuff, right? So
yeah,
apparently that's been brought under control.
Well, they said it was a goodwill mission to Mars, so I guess they were trying to negotiate some sort of treaty.
The president's out to.
He was on a tour, right? I mean, he was heading out to.
I think he was trying to. Yeah, he was trying to kind of unify the Earthers. All the humans. Right. Kind of rally everybody together and kind of try and at least try and settle and calm things down. I think that's what he was trying to do going around.
You have to remember the outer colonies in this series, including Mars, are not treated well as far as from Earth though.
Yeah.
Right.
Because the further out you go as far as the Earth colonies, it's it's basically you're out in the wilderness.
You're out, yeah.
Well, Earth
out of sight, out of mind.
I mean, Mars is pretty darn close though compared to. I mean, it's literally in the same solar system, whereas these other colonies, Proxima and
Io
5 are. Well, Io is. I presumably the Io they're talking about is Io
Jupiter.
at around Jupiter.
Yeah.
And I guess that's where the jump gate is in the solar system. Okay,
that's what they said. Yeah.
Which is quite far away from Earth. I mean, and it took. I mean, it was like a half a day or something, right? That they were traveling out there to it, right? Because we started on the 30th, and then the 31st, he was leaving Mars and going to Jupiter, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, it wasn't like,
and that's actually a pretty far distance. Yeah, that's
right,
a lot further than going Earth to Mars. I mean, we're talking next door, planetary wise.
So maybe
Mars
they were traveling
Jupiter
slowly for some reason, but I'm not sure if there's something to that or not. But
well, what is this? I mean, what speeds do they have?
Well, there's sublight. I mean, we don't. I don't really know.
Is it sublight? Is it sublight?
Of course.
It
will have to be.
Okay.
Remember, it's sublight, but also they're using a rotation process for gravity on there. So basically, if you notice the ships, they have a section of it that's rotating,
right,
on constant basis.
Right. Very, very 2001 Space Odyssey type stuff. Yeah. But if you are going the speed of light, okay, from the sun to the Earth is what, 8 minutes?
They're going far slower than that.
Yeah, because they're talking about taking days, right? So yeah.
So I mean, it takes as long for them to get to point A to point B as the blood requires. So
there was a question in there about where is Babylon 5? Yeah, it's Epsilon Eridani system, as K. Roberts knows.
Sorry. Yeah, it's not in our solar system. No, they use the jump gate to get there. Jump gate around Babylon 5.
Jump gate, and I probably have to go through a couple of gates, don't they, to go from Earth to Babylon 5?
I'm not sure. Is it clear how the jump gates work? If you could go from any jump gate to any jump gate, or you have to go through,
I think you have to hop. I think they're hops. I think you go from
jump gate only connects to a certain other one, but Michael probably knows that.
You know what?
I think that's not in the.
Michael can check me on this. I think there's something about the distance that a ship can go, but I might be thinking about some other IP, but I thought it
Oh.
was dependent on the
It's
ship.
not. It's not in the show at this point in the show anyway. Like from
Yeah.
watching, because I watched.
Well, and some ships can open their own gates too.
Yeah.
Yeah, if they're big enough.
But
Anyway.
but they would be having to connect to a gate somewhere else, right?
I don't think so. I'm not sure.
Yeah, because remember the ship that came through.
Yeah, I think Drake is right. No, you go into hyperspace through a jump gate. So you kind of set up your own, you've got these big jump gates set up in certain locations, and then any ship can go through it.
Yeah, but I think other ships can produce jump gates.
You're big enough, you basically kind of form your own warp field or jump gate, and then you just go through that.
I don't know.
Other ships can definitely go into hyperspace without a jump gate.
Yeah,
they
bigger,
can.
like basically cruisers and larger seem to be.
Yeah, larger ships.
They can, but can they? So I mean, are they picking a gate that's already established to come out at, or are they opening their own gate?
No, I'm pretty sure they can come out at their
so they can create both ends of the conduit, so to speak,
or they turn it off or something.
Do they have FTL? Spin up the FTL drives.
Okay, so
Stargate.
sorry, I went on a long tirade there. We were letting Madman go through things he liked.
No, it's okay. No, we're doing good. We're doing good.
Yeah.
And besides, we're doing good. There's 31 watching right now,
That's
guys.
pretty awesome.
Hit that like.
Yeah.
Thank
you.
you.
And subscribe.
That helps us.
If you feel sorry for us.
Should we
go ahead, Clem.
I was just saying, should we deal with the small one about the
you're kind of going through the plots, so I think we should just carry on with that. Go through the plots.
Just keep on going.
Just keep going. Everything you said is exactly what I was going to say.
Okay, well, I'll tip it off, and you guys can comment.
Jump in.
So Delen's storyline, which is relatively small, I think, in screen time, but there's some important bits here. So we have the first thing, she's building her house of cards or whatever.
Yeah, that's what I thought of too. House of cards. I'm like, what is she building? Oh. But her asking about Linear, if she had heard and what the answer was from Kosh.
Yes, the answer was yes.
Yeah,
which seemed to alarm her, right? She it got
surprised.
Yeah, and she went off to see Kosh right away.
Mm-hmm.
And Snob, you were mentioning, he flashed her. Well, what actually happened there?
Yeah, go ahead.
I think he opened up his
encounter suit.
Yeah, his environment suit or whatever you want to call it, his security suit.
So she, I believe, what they were trying to portray is that she saw him, like the doctor in the pilot saw him.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And man, you want to?
But it answered her question immediately as soon as she saw it.
Right. She was like,
whatever she saw, Kosh showed her something that basically she realized it. Whatever it was to the truth of the question to what she had asked, which what is the question?
That is the
and she
problem.
went back and started whatever she was doing with that triluminary.
Well, she was already building it, I think, in anticipation, but she put the final piece on there.
Right.
Yeah, and she clearly seemed to have a time constraint, right? That she was, because like when she went to Sinclair, it's like don't wait too long, So there was some, we don't necessarily know what it is, but there's something driving her to be acting on a timeline, it seems.
Yeah, and we obviously find out why, but we find out what she's building or what it does. We don't know why there's a timeline, I guess. That I don't think was ever explained.
Right. So she goes to talk to Sinclair, and then because of everything else going on, says, okay, well, fine, I'll let you take care of your business, but because she basically she's like, you remember, right? About
we need to talk.
Right. And she's like, I have answers for you, so she's suddenly ready to spill the beans. We don't know what she was going to tell him, but she basically came out and said she was going to tell him things that he needs to know. and
But doing so could it put both of their lives at risk too. She does
right,
point
and
that out.
yeah, she says, well, and the time thing, she says
And
things are set in motion, and there's
right.
not much time.
And we've seen her being warned about him,
Hmm.
you sure he doesn't know, when she was with the Great Council, one of the previous times.
Well, remember
And
back at the Soul Hunters episode where the
right.
Soul Hunter
When
was
he
saying
steps out of the shadow,
yeah,
right behind.
yeah.
Yeah.
They said they're using you. They're using you.
Mm. She also when she's talking to Lanier, the important point here, she says, she says Valen said this day would come.
Which Valen was the one that had died.
Valen is the Valen is the
prophet.
prophet.
Oh, that died like 1,000 years
some,
ago or
yeah,
something.
right.
Yeah. I always mix
So
him up with the other guy.
right, yeah,
They look very similar.
So, well, and then she starts the process. She can't wait anymore apparently because the things are set in motion, and then, well, as we see, Kosh again, kind of surprisingly shows up, and is very involved suddenly, or very active for him, and prompts Sinclair to go talk to Delenn. Lo and
Right.
behold, of course, we find out that
It's too late.
too late.
Well,
yeah. And Lanier is doesn't really have answers for him, of course. So.
I mean,
Remember, throughout this whole series, even from the pilot, there have been warning signs to Sinclair. I mean, we go back to the pilot. There was that Minbari that's told him that there's a hole in his head.
Yeah,
if
right.
you remember that.
Well,
like
and
I said, the soul. You had the Soul Hunter, then you had the everybody else trying to pick his brain to find out what is in his brain.
Right. And
right.
they couldn't. They
couldn't.
couldn't.
The Earth Force guys try to do the same thing. There's
right.
We've hit this about four times.
Psychops.
Right.
Psychop.
Yeah. So and Delenn says, "Oh, okay, we're finally gonna get these answers," and then they pull the rug out from under us, and we don't care.
And he was honest this time with her that bits and pieces. He did not remember everything. But
right, and
yeah,
we also saw him trying to look into Delenn a little bit too, right? So this is the coming together of that whole season long storyline.
Right, clearly, yeah.
And from what it sounds like, when you hear when Delenn, she tells Sinclair, says, "You remember what happened at the Battle of the Line." So from what this sounds like, it's basically we're going to find out what happened at the Battle of the Line.
Yeah, but we don't.
Yeah, that's the thing. We don't know.
Just like interrupt for a second. We have breaking news.
From K. Roberts.
The local from me. Our local my local Snobs local sports ball team here has defeated the evil Florida Swamp Dwellers in overtime through 4-3.
Oh, how many games do they play?
They'll play up to 7, but this was game 1.
Oh, okay.
But anyway, let's get back to the
Go Panthers. Oh, wait.
All right.
Yes, we have Panthers in Florida.
Sorry to interrupt. Let's go back.
Elvis and Weatherman have showed up.
Well, we need to mention what K. Roberts says. It says, if this is your first view of Babylon 5, be sure to skip the season 2 intro for the first few episodes. Yeah, well, that's interesting.
Well, spoiler, Snob's working on a promo for our show that's going to spoil the whole season. So
is he?
It's not going to spoil the season.
Be sure not to watch it, everybody.
It's just going to have pictures.
We need to kind of do the whole.
It's like a teaser. You're like, what? What is that? Oh, what's going on?
You know what? The series itself, the one from P10, the production company, that their trailers for each of the episodes, which was on the original DVD, were fantastic on how it was the description of each of the following episodes.
You know what I'd like to do?
Yeah, the DVD ones. Yes, I watched season 1 on those first. On
this episode, I noticed that the DVD had the option for a JMS commentary.
Yeah, there is JMS commentary on some of the.
I don't think every episode had that.
No.
So I kind of wish I would have had time to watch it yesterday and turn around and watch it with the commentary, because I think that would have been very interesting. Maybe I'll do that. I'll go back and watch it a third time, and we can discuss that on the show next.
Actually, let me mention this. There is something on the DVD commentary that JMS says. He talks, the swearing in of the vice president of Earth being president. It's based on Lyndon B. Johnson's
right.
Yeah.
When Kennedy was
presidential
assassinated.
dress, all the way down to the wife's dress.
Well, I think there's a lot of yeah,
It's
kind
a
of.
lot of references to that.
I think the whole situation is kind of similar.
Well, conspiracy.
Conspiracy.
And since you mentioned it, kind of odd that darn, I'm sick. I'm gonna have to stay back here. You go ahead without me, Mr. President.
Convenient.
Very convenient,
And
right?
only
Very
a day
convenient.
later, he was recovered enough to be
Right, to be sworn in.
Now,
on
okay,
Force
I
2.
mean, I think that's what they meant when they did that. Well, let me first say that Michael, Michael knows is pretty knowledgeable about the Babylon 5 universe. So, if he's talking about the star systems, that's probably, he's probably got it right. I agree with that. I think they're meant to suggest that the vice president is in on the whole thing. But again,
I do
normally
too.
the president and vice president don't travel together. That's like one thing.
Well, that's normally, they normally don't do that, although we have seen that lately
Well,
a couple of times. But
this is probably a good time to talk about what Clark actually said then. So this is the first time I think we've seen him, right? We've heard mention of
this
him
would be
before. Like,
this would be the first time Clark.
I think Ivanova mentioned him in when they were having the election, which I think was the first or second episode, a regular episode, and I think she said something disparaging about Clark at the time.
she did not like him at all. Yeah,
Right. But the
she
first,
liked was it what's his name? Santos? Is that his name?
Santiago.
Santiago.
Santiago. Yeah.
Um,
And
but-
I think just based on the speech that, spoiler, the president dies, right? And now we've got a new president sworn in, and he's giving a speech that seems very Earth first, humans
right.
first,
Which is
Yes,
the opposite.
which is one of those factions that's been, we've
yes,
discussed.
He immediately went to that, right?
Right.
It's like, so we all come together. He that's how he portrayed it, right? He took the opportunity of this event, this terrible event where the president was, met his demise, and then went right to that. And again, so we see this in the news report. So we all know that's important, right? I mean, that's in terms of storytelling. This isn't an accident.
Yes, Drake. We Snob already talked about that right at the very beginning when he was going through his rundown. Sorry.
Those of you
The
late to the
president
show,
died. Oh
the
no.
president is dead.
Yeah. That's kind of on the list of bullet points of the rundown for the show, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So it wasn't a spoiler, but
so I guess we should back up a little bit because Garibaldi, after he was shot, he crawled to get to the elevator,
right.
and ended up at a New Year's Eve party because it's the 31st by this point. The show starts on the 30th and goes to the 31st.
Was
And,
that famous scream that they used?
Is the Wilhelm scream you're talking about?
Was that the Wilhelm scream
Scream.
that the girl did, or was that an actual different?
How come
scream?
she didn't just think he was just some drunk? Oh look,
right.
the
Yeah,
security
well-
chief's drunk. Oh well,
Well, he was laying
he
front down, and he was shot in the back, so she would have
Well,
seen the blood and the
yeah. But okay, so they take him to
but he
med
wasn't
lab,
dead yet.
right? So I mean, Garibaldi's pretty. Clearly, I don't think they intended for him. They thought he was dead, right? Because you wouldn't. He could have ended him if he
they
wanted
would have
to.
spaced him or something.
Yeah, or just shot him again, in the head, or whatever.
Right.
But anyway, so Garibaldi's got a high Constitution score apparently.
Clearly, he got an 18 for that. He's got an 18 con.
So they roll him into med lab, and he struggles and actually tells Sinclair what's going on. It's to the point enough that Sinclair knows, and Sinclair contacts a senator. Lo and behold, senator's a jackass who's, oh, how dare you, spread these whatever rumor. Oh no, I'm sorry, I take that back. They tried to contact Earth Force One, but it was already jammed. Later,
Right.
he talked to the senator after it
Totally new
happened.
senator that we haven't seen before, right?
Right.
We have not seen this chick before.
Right.
And
So
she reminds me of some senators I know I can think of.
So they tried to stop it and they couldn't get through. So the plan, the plotters succeeded, right? They did jam the communications and were able to pull off the plot. Well, and then Sinclair tries to tell the proper authorities about it, which is nice because sometimes they play things fast and loose, and it's like, well, we'll see about that, But Sinclair went right to it, and he's reporting this. Hey, this is an assassination.
Right.
And they blow him off and order him to not talk about it.
Yeah, that's
pretty
how's
suspicious.
that gonna work in the next episode?
Pretty suspicious.
I mean, in the next episode, he's gonna have to say something. He's gonna have to call his what's the one?
So that senator is obviously in on the whole thing.
The Polynesian one. Polynesian senator. They should call him.
She might be in on it, or she might just be a moron.
I get the feeling she's in on it.
How could you be that stupid? Oh, we have a assassin.
Oh yeah.
No, it'll be fine.
And how is a senator ordering anything?
Well, we've seen this before, that the senators somehow have executive authority.
That doesn't make any sense.
No, it's a little strange.
If the president
has like 10 bosses,
I could see that.
Well, you keep telling them
at least 10.
It could be the first person he was able to get in contact with. Also,
well, that's what I think
because of the jammers.
It's just random, eh? Whoever gets in contact, he has to take orders from.
Well, it was also interesting that they tried to get in contact with the media to help out, and I think they can't, because the reporter did say something like, "Oh, we're getting some kind of reports or something."
I don't know if they changed their mind, and or what.
It was.
You know what I mean?
It seemed to me that like they say, okay, let's try to get in contact with the media, and as they're doing it, the media person says, "Oh, we've got a report coming in." Like it just happened, coincidence, sort of like.
Right.
They don't actually get. They're trying, but they don't
say what the report is,
or it's just too quickly. And then she goes to the explosion on the ship. So that was my impression of
that. That was one of those quick jump cuts where I think that they were probably going to go left and went right, or zig and then zagged a little bit, probably in the editing room.
Yeah, it could be.
Because I think it should have been a little bit longer or a little bit more. It was just very.
Back to the Garibaldi getting to the elevator kind of reminds me that there was a comedy movie called Yellowbeard where the main character, he had to remember where the treasure was, and he was going stagger, stagger, crawl, crawl, stagger, stagger, crawl. If you've never seen that movie, it's hysterical. But it's like, but you put to the point that Garibaldi crawling up there to that point is like, oh, you got to remember he used to be an alcoholic. This might be not the first time he's done this.
Yeah, he is kind of an expert at it. Yep.
Okay,
but how'd he reach the buttons?
Again, he used to be an alcoholic. He's probably done it before.
Yeah. They showed him getting the one on the outside, so presumably he rested for a minute and got the ones on the inside. So okay, so should we talk about? Do you guys want to talk about the Sinclair and the Sakai marriage?
The real quick, yeah. I mean, okay. I mean, they've been an on again, off again relationship for how many years? 13 years.
Yeah, this is only the second time we saw her, but they did mention her a few times in between, her first appearance and now. So presumably she was coming back to the station on and off, and things were going well, as Sinclair mentioned. Yeah. And then he gave the most unromantic proposal ever.
Most awkward proposal ever.
So you want to get married or what?
Is April good? No. July's better. Oh, okay. That was even the response was a little awkward.
I'm not sure why the month matters on a space station.
Well, I mean, they were celebrating New Year's.
Usually people want to get married in July
PlayStation.
because it's nicer outside, you know.
Yeah, they could have, by all rights, gotten married like the next week. Been
Yeah.
planning on it 2 weeks from, who do they have to get who do they have to, all they got to do is get somebody else to officiate, right?
Well, there
I mean-
there are churches in the Babylon 5 station.
Yeah.
Yeah, most likely though. I don't know. Garibaldi or Sinclair seems like he probably would have gone with like a military chaplain or something
Well,
like that.
he was raised by Jesuits, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if Sinclair is a religious. I don't remember if he's a religious man himself. I don't think he is, but he has a
He certainly
background.
doesn't seem it.
Yeah. Well, save that for season 2.
Hmm.
There's a good reason for why on there, because I don't want to give too much away on the season 2 premiere. But basically, there is a differential on characters, and when you see that he is a Jesuit and all that, and comparing it to someone else, you see the major differences between characters, which is very important.
So he asks. I guess we didn't see but they're having Catherine and Sinclair are having dinner with Garibaldi and Ivanova, and so he asks them to if they would be basically stand up with them for the wedding, right?
Really, a con of 14, Michael? Seriously?
Yeah, he's got to have a 16 at least.
He got to be at least a 16. I don't know, strength of 16 maybe, but he's got to have a con. He's got to have a good high con.
So anybody were you surprised by the marriage thing? Think anything of it?
It was like, well, we saw her. This was like what, the third time we've seen her?
Yeah, second time.
Second time. Okay,
a little bit surprised,
second time.
but...
The first time we saw him with a woman, it was the redhead. So
Speaking of marriage, if we go back to the episode where they were doing all the different religions,
right?
Oh yeah.
And if you remember the Minbari that they were doing,
isn't he already married?
And it ended, and somebody said somebody got married. That's a marriage ceremony. So who got married?
I think this was a trapdoor. One of the trapdoors.
It is a trapdoor. Yeah, I'm going to tell you, it is a trapdoor. But I'm just saying, if you're looking at it and you're not have seen it before, and you say like, and don't remember that, and you're like, and you come back and you're like, wait a minute, yeah, who did get married?
Yeah, you think it was one of the trapdoors he built into the series?
Yeah. Well, that's the great thing about JMS. He had all these trapdoors in this series just in case anything happens, and that's the brilliance of his writing. When you write something of this, where you're going 5 years on a series, and then suddenly something happens, to either the actor, production, crazy things that might happen, and you're able to fix it.
Does that question ever get answered? Inquiring minds want to know.
We'll have to wait. I have the answer, but unfortunately,
I know.
It'll give away a lot. It'll give away a lot. You have to wait till after season 4.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
Well, I haven't gotten to season 4 at all. I don't think.
Yeah, you have to get to the end of season 4, but and I'll be able to say what it was, because it is a major trapdoor.
Wouldn't it be very funny if Susan and Garibaldi were married? Oh, that would be hilarious. Or worse, Susan and or Garibaldi and Taylor, or whatever her name is.
Talia.
What is it?
Talia.
Talia. Yeah.
Oh, speaking of Talia, Talia wasn't in this episode.
She was the one that wasn't here.
Yeah, but we had talked about the conspicuous absence of other characters, but in this one we had pretty much everybody and their assistants were in the episode.
The doctor.
I think Talia was the only character who wasn't.
Yeah, she's the only major character that wasn't in.
Yeah, and
Officer Lou Welsh.
Who?
Oh yeah, the other security guy, the bald guy.
Oh yeah, no, I don't count that.
Okay, so the other major storyline now, which we mentioned a little bit, was the Narn and Centauri storyline, right?
Yeah.
So we start out we already mentioned it, but the where they're having this discussion in the council about this, these incursions that the Narn are committing into Centauri space and their military buildup kind of thing.
Sorry. That's true. Wouldn't it be funny if?
Yeah, they were.
All right, go ahead.
So and then lo and behold, Mr. Morden shows up again.
Right.
And you had a scene with Londo and Veer, where they were, Londo was kind of, grumbling about the whole situation and the fact that Centauri leadership isn't really doing anything about this, and so Londo's kind of pining for the old days still, which we've seen him do before. And then a call comes in on the comm, and Veer tries to block, basically screening the call, and Londo notices that it's Morden, and immediately jumps in, and he asks to meet with him, where and then so they meet in a hedge maze that's on the ship, and it's like, didn't they have a discussion about how they have no room for things like coffee to be grown and such, and they had this tiny little rock
But they got
garden,
this huge
but they have a
maze.
huge hedge maze.
I noticed that too. That's
that
kind of a
was-
waste.
There is
Yeah.
an explanation for that later on.
Okay.
There's a park.
There's a reason.
It's a park.
Yeah.
They call it the
Yeah.
park. Meet in the
It's-
park.
Let me
Um,
guess. It's to help produce.
it does
help
seem a
clean the
very-
oxygen.
It's oxygen, right? There you go.
It does seem to be a very interesting place to have a secret discussion on how you're gonna, blow up.
Well,
Nooks and crannies.
On that point, they're discussing it, and some people walk by, and Londo
like,
kind of
"Oh,
nods at
shh."
him.
Oh, we killed 10,000.
Well, no, this is but when they're setting it up.
Oh, yeah.
In the beginning.
Yeah,
And
the Game of Thrones Garden of Betrayal.
Yeah, right.
So
CMS did it first.
I hope there's
Morden,
no hidden speakers in there or anything, or microphones.
yeah, they're very trusting of lack of surveillance. Although who knows, maybe they're to the point where the blocking of those things is somehow considered. But so Morden's talking about his associates, and he just kind of comes out and says, "Hey, we could take care of this problem for you." And Lando's like, well, kind of skeptical about it.
What's the price?
And he says he can fix it, and what's the price? And Morden says that there's no price, but at some point we might ask you for a favor.
And that is a
So
price.
there is a price.
Yeah, that is a major price, because when somebody comes knocking, and wasn't that what the A team used to do? We may ask for a favor in the future or something like that.
I don't know.
Or it's a trope. It's a trope in
Sure.
in a lot of things, though. We'll do something for you. It's not going to cost you anything, but at some point in the future, I may need a favor for you, and you need
Scratch
to
my back
help
and
me.
I'll scratch yours.
You need to help me out no matter what. Answer no questions.
Yeah.
So
and
I thought this was interesting because I didn't think that Londo. I mean, Londo doesn't seem to be, he seems like a very experienced ambassador.
Mhm.
I'm surprised that he went along with this. Like, I thought his danger sense would come up hugely. He's like, oh yeah, there's no price. Oh yeah, and like it seemed to me that he should have considered the, this price might be more than he can afford to pay, and being a little more cautious about it. But I was.
But he
a little
did say
surprised
what-
about that.
but
What's
remember,
the worst that can happen? We don't succeed, and
It seemed a little out of character for him because he's very, he strikes me as very,
cautious with
very cautious, and
stuff,
also, not super trusting. He's very suspicious of. He's like,
well, yeah, he is.
and
kinda,
he knows that these things are,
Well,
They're gonna
roll
want some
back
for sure.
to the episode when Mr. Morden first showed up on Babylon 5, where he was going from race to race. And what that looks like to me, or anybody that would first come across it, is that Morden was sizing everybody up.
Mhm.
yeah.
And
what
he
do you
found-
want? Him is
found-
Mr. What
What do you want?
Right. He found the answer he wanted.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, Londo is the one that he can use, and he can provide with stuff that he wants, right?
Because Jakar didn't want to have nothing to do with him. He was like, yeah, whatever.
Well, Jakar kind of answered as well, but it didn't seem to hook Morden as much. But So so he delivered for Londo in that episode, right?
Right.
The
Yeah.
eye or
Got
whatever.
the eye.
So then, again, the plot sets this up that there's something going on. Londo's frustrated about it and wants to do something. So I know what you're saying, Snob, but um, then Morgan shows up and it's like, oh, hey, that guy, and
He did the impossible once.
right, and so he's the guy that's saying.
Maybe.
Right. He's saying, well, I can take care of this, and he took care of something before. And so Londo, I think it is kind of, well, what do I got to lose at this point? I mean, because remember, Londo kind of goes between, um, playing the fool, which he's not, you
Yeah.
know,
Not at all.
and lamenting, the loss, he doesn't want to be
The
here.
decline of his civilization.
Right. He doesn't
his
like it.
society.
He wants to have it all back. And maybe this is a moment because of all the other situations going on where he's like, F it. Let's go. Let's do it.
And
Yep.
and I'm not saying that Londo wouldn't do this. I'm just saying that it strikes me that he would be much more suspicious and more cautious about it. But I mean, there are reasons that that we could see in the future where he could have just made a mistake. He could just be like, there's all kinds of reasons he could have ignored those suspicions. But I sort of expected him to be a little more like questioning it a little bit more before he made that decision. But
Yeah,
anyway.
that's reasonable. But okay, what does he do though? He goes and tells Veer to convey the message. Basically, he does exactly what Morden told him to.
Yeah.
So it's like he bought into this for whatever reason. It's like, okay, I'm doing it.
Yeah.
And they sent the message that said, "Don't worry, I'll personally take care of it." Londo put himself out there on this because
And we never did know what the Centauri wanted him to relay to them either. We never did find out what the answer.
No, they were going to give up. They were going to give up.
They were going to give up
that was the implication, but we didn't get confirmation of that. And
well, we kind of know they're gonna give up Quadrant 37. They're gonna roll over. That's why Londo's a little bit pissed about it. I'm gonna have to go
more territory, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go and roll over to Jakar. He's gonna have another one up on me, sort of.
Well, we see you already mentioned it, of course, but Morden delivers. His associates show up and obliterate the Narn colony. And then we find out later that not only did they destroy the station, all the ships, every single person, no survivors, right?
10,000, yeah.
10,000. And Londo,
everything from the planet that was
so now
Narn.
right, yeah, exactly. He destroyed everything. I think they said every building, right? Or
every building.
Yeah.
Every building.
And
no
so
survivors.
This shocks Londo, right? And he's goes and talks to Morden, and Morden very callously just says, "Who cares? 10,000 Narn, 100,000, a million. What does it matter? And why? Because you get what you want.
Your star is rising, and
you're a hero,
emperor."
Right. And the Centauri court, they're not asking. They decide they're not asking questions. Hey, this is a happy coincidence. And
I found that a little bit questionable too, because I'm like, how would Londo, like, I mean, I'd be sitting there going, first of all, some of them are going to be his enemies and rivals, or I would say maybe not enemies, and they're just like, oh yeah, whatever. How did Londo do it? Oh, who cares?
Let's discuss that, the mentality behind that, because now, what if they're? I agree with you that it is a little strange they just say it, but I mean they kind of. I think Morden kind of mentions that, or it's like they don't care, and it's like they So think if there's other people like Londo that have this attitude of, man, I would do anything
Bring
to go
back the
to
glory
the old
days. Yeah.
and suddenly it drops in their
there
lap.
are that we have to assume that there would be.
Yeah. So human nature, or Centauri nature, I guess in this case, it's like, hey, don't look a gift horse in the mouth, just take it, And okay, go ahead, you guys. What do you think about that? Is that reasonable?
No,
to you?
I agree that the Centauri are a degenerating society. A lot of them, some of them won't be. Some of them are going to be rivals of him, so they're going to be suspicious, and they're going to maybe want to throw
Yeah.
a wrench into the works, but maybe they can't because he did such a good job. They're
Well, and
only going to do as much as they can do, right?
it might not progress to that point yet either. This is right after it happens,
Yeah, it might be a
So,
little early.
and
Are they-
right, and it's like
Yeah.
that some of them are going to go, that Cloud Londo, he did
Yeah,
he
how
did
did
this,
he get this?
He's going to be a hero to a lot.
Right. So the pieces start moving there, right?
Yeah.
And I think to me, I really like that. It's like, oh, these things are happening now, and Morden just kind of leaves him like, hey, celebrate, you won, right? Um,
He
but
doesn't feel very celebratory though.
right,
No.
right. He's like, oh, this this was more than I expected, and clearly he is not comfortable with it.
Right.
Madman, what do you think about this?
Well,
That whole
like
interaction?
you said it straight out, and you have to remember that there are people that are sort of like almost aristocrats, and
Mhm.
they always have fighting within, or they're making back door deals within each other to run their world, and basically, they always come across someone that basically is going to do something that will be way over the top, show off sort of the emperor on the way, and then suddenly they say like, well, maybe we need to hang out with him for a while
Yeah,
and get what we're going to get
Single
out of
points.
him as much as we can before his star falls.
Right. Latch on to,
Now-
a,
I mean,
to a rising star.
It seems to me
Yeah.
that this Earth Alliance, or whoever Morden represents, the Shadows, whatever you call them, they seem to be setting up, similar. I mean, we've suspected there's
There
the
is a-
assassination of the president is basically a coup, right? So
I'm
they seem
curious
to me
though.
they seem to me that they're setting something up similar for the Centauri. I mean, not necessarily coup,
Yeah.
but they're at least trying to push Londo up in the higher. Will there be a coup or? I mean, like there's something going. They're gonna mirror it somehow in the Centauri for some reason. I don't know why, but that's what it
Yeah.
seems like to me.
I just wonder if the same people or the same, well, not, I don't know if people is the right term, but the same entity is trying to pull the strings on all these different, the Centauri and the Earthers, the Earth
Mhm.
Alliance.
The possibility, we don't know who they are.
Yeah,
Right.
we don't know what's.
Is
Yeah.
this a new race? Someone that's been here
Well-
before or not? We don't
and,
know.
and
Kind of-
Morden is
so-
human, right? As far as we know, he's completely
And
human.
why?
human.
Yeah, why they working with a human being?
I
Well,
wonder
we-
if Morden is
We
part
do
of,
see a little bit of a show of that, right? You wanted? I
Mhm.
think Cam was going to mention that. Go ahead.
Are you talking about with Morden talking to the?
at the end.
Morden talking to the Shadows there. Or
Yeah.
whatever they
Well,
are.
these kind of like cloaked, translucent or
Robotic-y sounding.
things.
robotic / insectoid type. That's
yeah,
what they look
he's
like to me.
he's speaking English, and they're chattering in some other form, right? But
Yeah.
he says we. I don't know if you
Yeah, he does. Yeah.
right. So
Yeah. Almost
Um,
reminiscent of or similar to Vosh or to the Vorlons, to Kosh. He's kind of got that little, weird, what's the word? Not ethereal, but some sort of, how Kosh is.
not corporeal.
Yeah,
Incorporeal.
So if you recall the episode before where he told him that they don't belong,
Mm.
and that was Morden actually that Kosh saw, wasn't it? Was that Morden that
Yes.
he said?
Yes.
So
But you
so
hear
he
later
recognized-
on that they said, well, some reason Kosh's suit was damaged.
Mhm.
Now,
Right.
right,
was Morden alone, or was there
or
those
was
things with him?
right?
Because
Yeah.
clearly Kosh. Well, first of all,
And we know Kosh when he opens up his suit, you see, we don't
Right.
see it, we see the light from it, right? We never actually see him
But-
per se. So
They all
And-
float down here.
you got the light from the Vorlons, and we don't know what these dark entities are, but I have a feeling that they're kind of opposites.
Well, and we also when Morden first came, the first time he avoided Kosh. and then
Right, very much so.
because it was like, I'm, and he specifically didn't go to talk to him also, right? And then they had that other later encounter, but so there is something else related to this that's important in the whole mix with this Narn Centauri thing, and that is, when Natath comes and tells Jakar the news of this, he immediately is like, it couldn't have been the Centauri. I mean, which of course, you would think, typically he would want to blame them, he would want to take advantage of this. But it seems to me that he was pretty shaken by the whole thing, because it's like, he knows this couldn't happen normally, right? This is beyond, he basically goes through it. It's like, no, I mean, he thought maybe the Minbari might be able to do it, or the Vorlons, but they would have no motivation. So he's immediately, the reason I mentioned the Centauri thing that he mentioned is because the Centauri also know, hey, we can't be blamed for this either. It's like, so that's why they're probably celebrating. And it's like, whatever, something happened, and we benefit from it, and we're not going to be blamed for it.
Yeah, remember Jakar, he dismisses. He said it couldn't have been the Centauri, it couldn't have been the Earthers.
Right.
And Bari
And he named reasons why. He's like,
Yeah.
these guys are too weak. These guys are too busy with their own stuff. The Centauri, they're just
Yeah, the
they're
non-aligned worlds aren't
they're
powerful
too
enough.
spineless. They're too afraid to do anything.
Right.
Yeah. So he was basically going through. He went through the litany of them, and he's like, yeah, there has to be another factor. Zathras. Zathras. No,
So-
Zathras good. Zathras good. The question is what is it? Does it have anything to do with that? Remember the one planet that Sinclair's other girlfriend,
Right. Yeah, going
or
back
whatever.
to the early episode where Jakar warned him off of it and mentioned about the ants, them
He
being the ants inside.
rescued, had to have, Jakar had her rescued.
Right. So,
that ship of course, that ship, did it look similar?
He says he had mentioned that there are things out there that we do not understand, and basically we would be considered ants to them.
Right.
So these must be beings that are way above our technology, the technology of Earth and everybody else in the universe.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever that thing was.
I just wonder if that's related to these shadow things, or if it's not quite, if they're way above on a whole different.
Could be, may not be. We don't know.
Yeah.
We'll have to wait and see on that.
Yeah.
So, then we have the scene with Natath, Jakar, and Ivanova, where I think is a pivotal scene, because again, it's pretty brief, and it's not over the top. It's very subtle. I mean, it's subdued, I should say, not subtle.
Well, everybody's kind of somber too at that point.
Right. Because I mean, Jakar mentioned it's like, this is a dark day for both of us, and so he's kind of empathize. There's I think there's genuine empathy between the characters at that point, which is, again, I mean, it's a highlight to me, because I've complained a lot about the characterizations being clumsy, and due to whatever the writing is, and this episode was the opposite, in my opinion. I mean, pretty much across the board, it's like, these are the kind of performances I wish we had all the time, or the writing and performances together. It all clicked for me. What do you guys think?
I'm interested. I agree with that, but I think it's kind of interesting that this was episode 12, right? This was 12 in the production order.
Right.
So it's about halfway through, yet we see some of the episodes later on that are much less than this.
Yeah.
Like that, in that respect. Yet you'd think they would get better as they go. I don't know. What do you think about that, Cam? Like, that's what my question.
I mean,
well, I mean, 12 is right, would have been right during the middle of everything.
We did note that some of the earlier ones, seemed more clunky, and other ones. So, you would expect that this one wouldn't be the peak necessarily, but maybe it is, just because this is more pivotal. The story is more solid here. This is what matters. And so, you didn't have these goofy, look, another, random romance, or something. I mean, it does have the one, but it was also established before, and it didn't have a huge part on the episode. So I don't know. Like Jeff said, it seems like it was fire on all cylinders at this point, even though it was earlier.
Well,
Yeah.
remember, it's the actor who plays Sinclair. He's dealing with with an illness throughout the series, throughout season 1 on there, and it caught up to him at the end. So it's he's fighting something that privately that most of the cast and crew didn't know about.
Yeah. And if this is only halfway through the filming progression,
Yeah, exactly.
Because this was one of his better performances.
Yes,
I think it was everyone's better performance.
Yeah, I mean everybody was on target here with this one.
Yeah, and so Jakar is, again, usually Jakar gets, is very willing to go over the top and yell and all this stuff, and he's just kind of relatively quiet for him, but seems very both resolved and worried. Then we find out later that he leaves a message for Natoth. It's like he's going to the homeworld. He's directly involving himself in this situation. It's like I'm going to find out what's going on here. And I think that's where we leave with Jakar, right?
Well, I wanted to mention one thing.
Gone.
Yeah, that's where we leave with him. But I wanted to mention one thing about Jakar. I thought it was interesting that Sinclair, when Sinclair comes to talk to him in his room there, he seems to be very, well, how do I explain? He seems reluctant to push the government agenda. Sinclair says, "Oh, we might be at a crossroads. I want some flexibility." And he kind of looks at him, and he got this look on his face, and he says, "Well, there's really no flexibility." But he's not like, "Hey, there's no flexibility, blah, blah, blah. We are, the Narn are this and this." He seems like he actually kind of agrees with Sinclair, but he has to push his government's line. He's not willing to say, I don't agree with what my government's doing, but I kind of get the sense of that. So, he's much more reserved in that. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I think he's developed a little bit more of a better relationship with Sinclair at this point. Whereas at the beginning, they were kind of kicking Jakar around, and I think we could talk about this in the season wrap up, but I think Jakar has taken some steps forward in the way that he deals with the people, and again, he saved Catherine, so he's sees Sinclair as a little bit more of a potential ally, even though they've had these rough spots, and so he's not going to just spit on him in private, even though he might posture in public.
Yeah. I think it's interesting. Also, how many episodes was Natoth's predecessor there for?
I think she's only in one, right?
I thought there was a couple, but at any rate, and we've gotten Natoth now, so we've had her. Maybe 10 episodes ago they introduced her, if that, and she hasn't been in all of them. Kind of interesting. I'm curious. I'd like to see the whole list of the episodes of season 1, and the production order that they are, and try and see if I can visualize any way that they may have pieced this storyline together. How did they film it? And you know what I mean? Try and get a picture of that. I think that would be something interesting to look at.
Well, you have to remember in whether it's broadcast television or in movies, when it comes to production shoots, you may not have one team alone. You may have multiple teams. And sometimes one team may be doing episode 1 while another team is doing episode 9. It depends on what they call the shot sheet, what's being shot for that particular day. It's everything is not straight through the entire episode from beginning to end.
So they could have still been working on episode 10 while they're doing 12, and 11 is in pre-production type of stuff, and 13 is still being tweaked with the script.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
to fill in what you were asking, Jeff, is Natoth showed up in episode 5, but that was production 108, and then the next one I think she had a big role in was Deathwalker, which was episode 9, but 113. So that was actually filmed right after this
After
one.
this,
So she might have been, in terms. So she's been there actually for most of the season since episode 5 in terms of episode order, but
right?
she might have had a little block, of
Yeah, so
in
five,
production order.
five, and through 13 or whatever, maybe. Yeah,
Yeah, Mad Men might know better than I, but I would assume that they would probably go on, sets. Generally speaking, they're like, okay, we got this set. Let's try to shoot everything that we can within this set.
Right.
Within a reasonable amount of time. They might not have to go for the entire.
Well, probably for groups of actors too,
Yeah.
where they might
and
say,
groups
okay,
of
we got
actors too.
Yeah.
We got this guy.
Yeah,
from
that's
this
why
time to this time, so
yeah, that's why the last episode, June Lockhart and Billy Mummy never saw each other on the set.
right.
Their scenes were shot totally on different days.
Kind of ironic that the two of them never got to actually see each other on set.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I got an answer to my question. Did you guys think that you agree with me or not that Jakar seemed a little reluctant with his government?
He did.
More...
No, you're right. He absolutely. And I don't know if it was because the Centauri had. Was it Cam? You said they had him dead to rights, and I didn't think about that. That didn't. I wasn't looking at it from that because I'm like, well, I'm thinking. Yeah, it used to be Centauri space, but they got to have a little bit of breathing room and got to be able to, blah, blah, blah. And I didn't realize that was that the treaty was the other way around. I was thinking the treaty was in favor of the Narns at that point, not in favor of the Centauri. I missed that.
Well, Snob, I didn't take that away from it, but I can't say that nothing in particular came across to me at that point. So you might be right, but I don't think that would be in line with Jakar's general stated. He's openly stated he would be happy to obliterate the Centauri. So if he sees what's going on, it's what he wants based on his other portrayals. So I don't think that he would have a particular problem with it, and maybe, like I said, he just didn't feel any need to jam Sinclair on it.
Yeah, I have
to agree with Cam on that too.
My thought is that he could be reluctant for other reasons, that he might think that he might want to stick to the Centauri, but he might think this is a step too far, or that this might go over the edge, or there could be a bunch of reasons that he thinks, yeah, I agree with this, but not now.
Yeah, it might not be.
They're not at
move.
Yeah, they're not at the level where they could go full all out war with the Centauri and reasonably win.
Yeah,
but remember,
I admit that that's not in there. He just seemed a little more reluctant compared to how he normally acts, where he's more bombastic,
or braggartly, or
yes, exactly.
Well, remember, we're at crossroads right now, coming out of season 1 into season 2, and there's a lot going on, and there's more to come.
Yeah,
and
that's what Sinclair says to him. Sinclair says to him in that thing. He says, "We're at a crossroads." And he doesn't disagree. He that's what makes me think that he's like, maybe we should be trading a little lighter than this.
At the end, he can so much as confirms it. He says, yes, tell Sinclair he was right.
Yeah, he does. But
we are at crossroads.
Yeah, I was kind of looking at that space itself, because he doesn't know that at that point what's going to happen. So
right, yeah.
After the outpost is destroyed, he's obviously like, I can see a big change in how it just seems to me that he's sort of, before the outpost is destroyed, he's a little bit reluctant, like he knows that this might be a bit of a problem somehow. And then when it is destroyed, he's like, yeah, I was right. There is another player here. We got to figure out who it is. There's something bigger going on than I know about, or we know about. And we should figure out what that is.
The question is, I guess the question that we won't get an answer till next season is, where is he going? Who's he going to consult? Or where's he going? What's he going to look for? What does he suspect? I mean, we know that Mr. Plays with Shadows guy, had already prompted him, and he just kind of blew him off. And finally told him, yes, I want to see blah 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 blah. But
Yeah, he just
does he
says he's going to the
suspect?
home world.
Yeah, does he suspect? Yeah, right. He of course he's taking his L in the toss that he's he's got to go blah blah blah. Does he suspect that you know this guy shadow guy is involved? Is he suspicious? What's the deal? So
because he doesn't see Morden during the episode and isn't, I would suspect that that Morden being there isn't necessarily.
well, nobody else saw Morden this time either.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Well,
so I don't
except
think
a few people in the park.
Yeah,
yeah.
So I don't think
the two randos that walked by.
I don't think Morden is triggering Jakar that something's wrong. He might think of Morden and say, "Hey, maybe this is related somehow." But I think it's just he's triggered by the fact that this whole outpost is destroyed and he doesn't know who did it, and it should be very obvious.
I think he's looking, like I said, he's resolved. He's looking for answers now. He knows there's something more because he went through it for the audience, right? He told us,
yes.
that. So
he
he
probably
knows
wanted
there
to
is
visit the
something else.
Kari. He probably went to visit the Kari, most likely. At that point, he said he was going back to homeworld. To talk to the government itself, because there has to be something in there that possibly, maybe the government knows or not knows. Maybe that he has to go further than that.
Yeah, and he's not letting any grass grow under his feet. He's going, he
going
wants
into
answers.
action. Yeah.
Now, so we were talking about Morden again there. Important. I don't remember if anybody mentioned it, that when he's talking to his cloaked friends or whatever that is, he says Londa will do what they want.
Yep.
At this point, so Morden is telling his associates, we have this guy where we want him.
We've got him where we want him now. Yeah. And I don't necessarily agree with that assessment that he's making. I think he's Morden is kind of pushing it a little bit.
Really?
Maybe selling it a little more convincing than it really is, because clearly Londo feels unhappy. He's not happy about the result.
It's true, but he accepted it.
He's disturbed about it, but I think he's feeling guilty, and that's why he decides he's got to go be there for Mr. Garibaldi.
Yeah, well, I don't,
and also a sense of loyalty, I guess. But he could.
They've built up a relationship with Garibaldi, and
they have.
My question would be on that topic: does he know that the injuries to Garibaldi is sort of directly related to him?
How? What do you mean?
Well, I mean, if they weren't obviously the I guess maybe it isn't obvious.
Yeah, you're making that same connection I did in the back of my head.
I'm making the assumption that the shadow is engineering the
but they're pulling the strings on
assassination of the murder of the president.
But there would, you guys are speculating, which is fine.
I'm speculating.
We've seen no connection to indicate that Morden was involved with this other plot at all.
I see. I'm making the assumption that Morden is human, and he might be the representative who deals with the shadow, wherever they are. But there's some sort of group that's primarily Earth based, that is organizing things on Earth to overthrow the Earth government.
So that's their powerful friend in that.
Well, here's the point. When Morden first arrived, when Morden first arrived on Babylon 5 in that first episode he was in, and they scanned his ID, what did the security guard tell him? His ID hasn't been scanned in a long time.
Yeah. Right. So, you've been away for a while.
You've been away for a while. So that means, he's been nowhere near any of the Earth colonies or Earth Dome at all. Because
he's been away from everything, or just from Babylon 5? I assumed
from everything.
From all.
I didn't
from all. Because when you scan those IDs, it's identifying you, where you've been. It's like a passport. In other words, it's telling where you've been, where how long you've been between worlds and stuff like that. And basically, the guy said directly, he says, this hasn't been used in a long time.
That's a good point. I didn't catch that remember that.
Yeah. No.
Well,
So
or
there might be
so,
two separate groups dealing
do
with
you think,
doing.
Snob, though, that he is, well, are you thinking that he is some kind of government operative?
Yeah.
I don't know if he's a government operative or
Or he's in
but
cahoots with them.
my kind of assumption was that he's in, like, there is somebody up to something overall, and it involves these shadow things. But it also, the Earth. I assume that some of the stuff going on Earth is related to it as well, so that
Okay.
whatever this shadowy organization is, they've got their claws in the these shadow ships, but they've also trying to manipulate the Earth government, and now they're trying to manipulate the Centauri government. But that could be wrong. Perhaps it's two groups, and there's one group going to use the Centauri government against whatever the Earth guys are up to. I mean, I don't know.
Well, we heard in this episode that there is a such thing as a PPG that can basically be untraceable. Is it possible that you could have more than one ID or one that's untraceable? I would expect you
Of course,
could.
yeah, I would think so.
Yeah.
So we don't really. I mean, he said,
So he
"Oh,
could
I've been
have
gone for a
come
while."
from Earth just because he's using a separate.
He's using one of his mini identities.
It could be an identity, and he's just been around
Yeah, it
Earth
could
the
be
whole time.
that,
It's an
Could
identity.
be a
hasn't
different
used.
identity. His name may not be Mr. Morden. We don't know.
Yeah, I mean, and I agree with Michael here. Morden does have Londo. Londo has blackmailed himself. He's got two major things that they've got over him. If Londo is to use the fact that he's got the eye, because we were told that the eye is sort of the symbol of the emperor. So let's say he were to use the eye to sort of give him some legitimacy,
To take power.
emperor, they could just say, "Oh, we gave it to you," blah blah blah. And if he finds out that this whole thing with the Outpost 37 could backfire, the Narn could get really pissed off. And part of the reason that the idea that the Centauri government likes the fact that what happened with Outpost 37 is that they have deniability, right? But if evidence comes out that that Londo engineered it, or that the government was involved somehow or something, then that part of the big reason for being happy with this destruction of the outpost goes away, because the deniability goes away. So it could really go back in his face.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
that's part
I
of the reason
suppose.
why I'm concerned. I think Londo is not being suspicious enough, because this could really blow up in his face.
Come back and bite him in the ass.
But he doesn't seem to be. He seems to be a guy who would be totally aware of that, and very cautious about that. But he doesn't seem to be as cautious for whatever reason. And there could be legitimate reasons that he is. So, I'm not blaming him for that. But
yeah, it's very
All right,
interesting.
But
Should we
before,
finish up with the with Delenn? Should we go on to Delenn?
is there something else? But yeah, go ahead if you got something.
I mean, how far did we get to, Delenn? I mean,
I think it was that she was
stuff
in the Chrysalis.
in the cocoon. Yeah, I mean, it's what's going to happen. Did you
Lanier
notice?
Lanier says she's changing.
Yeah. Well, did you notice when? And I don't know if this was an audio thing, but when she went to go see Kosh, and he opened the suit, and you see the suit open when he flashed her. Yeah. Did you hear when they cut back to her, you heard what sounded like flapping? Did you hear that?
I didn't notice it.
no,
I did.
I didn't either. But
Do you say flapping or clapping?
Flapping, like wings flapping.
I didn't notice that.
No,
I got to say, as a person,
I did. I heard it. It sounded distinctly to me like flapping of wings. What do you think about that one, man?
I think Weatherman makes a good point there. And, I'm I gotta say, I don't want to go any further with what's happening. I want to, I've seen season one, a couple of episodes of season two, but I'm very curious as to what the big deal is with the Vorlon, because she sees what he looks like, and then I guess I assume that we don't know. I assume that she sees what he looks like. He's taking off his helmet, or he's opening himself up.
It kind of
and then she's
opens
like,
up, and
it makes her feel good. So I'm like, well, what the hell is with the Vorlon? Are the Vorlon some sort of mix between? They are a race that have gone into a Chrysalis? Why would seeing him in his true form, if that's what happened, why would that make her feel better about going into this Chrysalis and changing into whatever she's going to change it into? I can't figure that out right now. So I'm very curious as to why, what's so big about the Vorlon that she would be like, oh, okay, now I feel better about making this, and this change that she's making. I assume it is, it could backfire and you could die or something, because Lanier is pretty sad about it, and he's very questioning.
He's dedefinitely worried.
He's very worried, and he's like, I don't know, should you do this? So this change that she's making is, it doesn't seem to be like, oh yeah, it's gonna be good to go, no problem. But something the Vorlon shows her about whatever makes her feel better about it.
That confirms what the prophecy, I think, that the path that she must follow is kind of the intention. I would urge you to go back and watch specifically that scene where with Kosh and Delenn. Yeah, well, there can only be one on Babylon 5. But
that's only one Vorlon, is what
I know. Yeah, no Highlander stuff here. But go back and listen, turn the volume up and see when and you don't hear it when you're saying Kosh, you hear it when they cut back to the shot of her, and she's and it's kind of like, that's weird. I heard that, right? Because I rewound it and listened a couple of times. I'm like,
all right,
I didn't catch that the first time I saw it. I think it might be a clue.
Foreshadowing.
Yeah, could be. But
so you telling me that you suggesting that the Vorlon are beautiful butterflies or something?
Well, maybe.
That's right. The show turns into being all about butterflies.
It's all about the butterflies.
Yeah. Anyway, I don't know. I'm very curious. I'm almost
Go back and listen and tell me what you think.
To go
next week.
To go online or look into it and find out what the heck the Vorlon looked like, because this is kind of. But I won't.
Well, no. It's going to ruin a lot.
I won't ruin anything. But I'm just very, I'm like, what the hell? Like, why would this guy showing himself have, which I think he did. Why would that have any effect on her? But yeah.
Okay, we're at almost 2 hours here.
We're looking. I was hoping to get around 2 hours.
Okay, well, we got to do our final wrap ups, but I did want to note there was, I think it's the last line. It's Sinclair's last line, and I think it's the last line of the show where he's there with Catherine and he says nothing is the same anymore.
Yes, that's obviously hey, big changes.
Yeah,
big changes coming.
The question is knowing what happens in real life to the actor who played Sinclair.
Pretty prophetic, huh?
Yeah, it's
schizophrenia,
right? How are they going to do episode 1 of season 2? That's my kind of that's the big question, and we spoiled that in the first episode.
That's basically the JMS, his writing skill.
Right.
I wonder if
he put trapdoors specifically for certain reasons. And basically it's good. You'll see in season 2 the trapdoors being activated.
Because clearly they go to a break, right? They don't just go straight from season 1 right into filming season 2. I'm sure they wrap the season and because they don't know if they're going to get renewed.
Well,
or get a second season, or maybe at that point they did, but
I'm not.
This is not a network. This wasn't on a network channel. This was syndicated, and basically the syndicated contract mostly they do 2 seasons on a general back in the 1990s, and then they go from there.
So 44 episodes, and
I suppose we could look up and see when the last production episode of season 1 was produced, versus the first one of season 2.
Yeah, with
Yeah,
the actual
I-
date.
I'm guessing there might have been. I mean, they had to
break.
recast, right? Some
Yeah.
some people. So
So
not
just
recast, but they needed new cast.
I'll say it. We've said it before. I'll say it again so that if anyone is upset about spoilers, they can blame me. Spoiler alert for the first episode of season 2, which we probably will be doing in maybe 2 weeks or something. If you don't want to hear it, close your ears now. Yeah, we've mentioned this before. Sinclair, the actor who plays Sinclair, had a personal medical issue. I think he had schizophrenia, and he basically left the show to treat it. And there will be a new a new person in Sinclair's position,
Captain.
a new actor and a new character.
Yeah.
In season 2. But anyway,
All right.
Yeah.
You
blame me
you want
if you're upset about that.
you
Yeah.
want
Well, here's another thing for season 2. Natoth at one point won't be played by the same actress. There will be a change of actress in season 2.
Again?
No, it was
Well,
a different
it'll-
character the first time.
No, it's what is it? Caitlin Brown portrayed her the entire on most of the series, and then they brought in Mary Kay Adams in the second season.
Does
I'm
she
saying
carry it
that-
on the rest of the show, the rest of the series, or is she only temporarily filling in?
I like the actress who plays Natoth. I think she's pretty
Yeah.
good.
It is temporary, but there's also there are points that we'll see Natoth and we will not see Natoth in simpler terms. Like the episodes where he said, "Well, we see Veer here, but we don't see him in the next episode." We'll see this other character, but then 3 episodes we won't see them for, and that's what happens with this series on there. We're not going to see everybody throughout the whole series.
Yeah, and just to what James says, it was a little strange.
I think he had struggled with it for off and on for years.
But he does get treated, and I mean he died in 2012, so he gets another 18 years. It's not like he's
JMS helped him.
Yeah,
Nobody else on the crew knew. The cast and crew, nobody knew. It was a shock when we got to season 2, and there was the change in season 2. But it was JMS who basically helped with his medical regimen to that point.
I mean, and I'll tell you,
my understanding is that he got he was able to control it, or he got I'm not saying get better, but he's able to control it through whatever, and he did. He does return in other seasons as as the same character.
Yeah,
he
comes
himself,
back.
the same character. And I believe he started. I'm sure there was a couple of years where he didn't do anything, but he was seen at conventions and stuff. Later on after this. So yeah.
So in the end, it has mostly a positive outcome. It just the fact that we lose.
Hey, quick interjection. We've got 42 people watching right now. If you haven't subscribed, Sci-Fi Snob is begging you to please consider it.
Please do. Also hit that like. Also, it's important too to hit that like.
Yeah.
And join the Discord while you're at it.
We're trying to get to 1,000 subs by July. That was the goal. Now, I mean, we're getting about one every 2 days, so it's probably, and we only got less than 30
They were
days.
closing in on 600. So.
But anyway, if you like what you hear, and subscribe, we appreciate it.
And while we have our relatively high viewers, why don't we move to our final thoughts?
Yeah.
Okay. So final thoughts on the episode. I think we pretty much covered everything I wanted to cover anyway. So final thoughts. If you want to rate the episode, what do you think of the episode? Then we'll do our real quick our trivia questions and talk a little bit about next week what we're going to do and that kind of thing. All right. Go ahead. Who wants to go first? Our guest host, Madman. You want to go first?
I guess I'll go first. Well, for me, this episode's 9.5 out of 10. It happens to be one of the best episodes of this season. You got to a point here where you're telling a tale, and you now laid all the cards on the table. Now, even though there's going to be some changes for season 2, you've laid the cards on the table. What is going to happen from this point on? We don't know. Like I mentioned before, the quote from Churchill, "This is not the end. This is not the beginning of the end. It is the end of the beginning, and that's what this is. It is it, and so it begins, as Kosh would say, that we're going to move into some of the best science fiction that's ever been put on a TV screen. I mean, you can go down the list of great science fiction shows from past, present, and future. Babylon 5 is the standing point for a lot of the science fiction shows from here on down the line on there. And this you got to stay with it, and you will get to enjoy some of the best stuff that you've seen in a long time if you're a first time watcher on this.
Don't undersell it or anything. Eh?
Oh no, never undersell it.
Go ahead, Jeff.
All right. Well, I'm going to agree with Madman here. Yeah, 9.5, definitely 9.5. The acting, Jakar was, even though his attitude was a little different, I think it was with reason and fit the situation. The only thing I had was like maybe that one jump cut with the ISN report where we're getting this information now, and boom, the president's dead now. We watched it, but no, excellent episode. Of course, it's going to be a cliffhanger. We kind of figured that, and the most important thing is getting nibbled to death by cats is apparently a thing.
Quack,
And
quack.
Cats go quack. So, but it was great. Definitely leaves a lot of anticipation, a lot of speculation for what's going to happen in season 2. And you've heard some of that, and I think you'll hear a whole lot more of that next week as we dive into that. So, how about you, Cam? What do you think?
Well, I gotta say, I also agree with Madman's statements about that some of the cards are being laid on the table now. It's like all these things. We talked before about these different threads and some of them coming together. Well, now some of them are really coalescing in a serious way. People are. It's like things are happening, and I think this episode did an excellent job. Like I said, it's just a cut above. I mean, a clear cut above the other episodes uh, on average, where the character portrayal. It's like they portrayed feeling the weight of the situations going on very effectively, in my opinion. So I absolutely loved it from that sense. You guys rated a 9.5. I'd say it's a 9 plus easily. Probably the best acted episode of the series so far. And it's again, much like Madman, it's like this episode, and I've complained a lot throughout our retrospective about how, this is, painful or whatever. It's like watching this episode, it was like it reminded me why I love the show. And like again, Madman was saying this is one of the best sci-fi shows that there's ever been, and it very quickly reinforced my memory of that. So
You getting the feels again?
yeah, I definitely am.
Yeah,
And
yeah, that's
I mean,
what I'm like.
I
You're
had
like,
some time, and
finally.
yeah, and I'm like, man, I just want to dive into season 2 and just start burning through the episodes. I've not done that. I've been watching week to week, but man, this one really made me just want to give me, let's go, let's binge this stuff.
With that appetite for like, this is the Babylon 5. I remember now why I fell in love with this show. Yeah,
absolutely. Yep. So and definitely an A.
So just for Cam, I'm going to announce a 6-month hiatus for this show, so he can wait extra long.
Just kidding.
But seriously, so my unlike Cam and Madman, who've seen the entire run, I've seen up to season 1. I watched it before, and then I did cheat a little and go into a couple of episodes of season 2 before we started doing this show, and then the vote from the chat and audience was that we need a couple people on here who haven't seen anything. So I stopped watching. So I have seen a couple of the first couple episodes of season 2, and I have heard from Cam throughout that season 1 is a little rough and it gets better from there on. And I'll have to agree that this was a very good episode. In the top 3 or 5 of the episodes for sure, if not the best. And I did note that during the season, I shouldn't be saying this. We should save it for our wrap up. But during the season, there were a couple of weak episodes for sure. And, just from the couple of episodes from season 2 that I saw, all of them were very impactful and, seemed better in the regards of the acting and all this stuff, but also much more impactful on the storyline, where a couple of these episodes of this season, you're like, well, that was kind of throwaway. That didn't really seem to help. So I only have, Cam's promise that everything is going to get more impactful. I don't have any personal knowledge, but the couple of episodes of season 2 I've seen seems to reinforce that. So I am, pretty jazzed as well and looking forward to season 2 and expecting, our discussions to get, pretty strong on all of the episodes. And we're going to be like, yeah, wow, this was great. And I'm very curious to see where it goes. And
including the FX, don't forget the FX team. It gets better.
Oh, yeah, it's true. That's right. The FX, a couple of the effects in the first couple episodes of season 2 are already better. They've spent more money and they've done a little bit better on them.
Well,
I don't mind the effects anyway. I'm more a story guy. So
even the DVD splash screen, I was looking for the right disc a couple episodes when we changed over to this disc. So this is the last disc in the group. It only had 2 episodes on it, the last one and this one. And I had grabbed the wrong one and stuck it in there. And of course, the startup screen, the menu, and all that screen like DVDs had, totally like it looked like 100% better. Of course, dead giveaway. The image on it, you're seeing the new guy. So you're like, oh, that's definitely not the right season. So let's get going back.
I'm watching on the Blu-ray, the complete series on the Blu-ray. So I noticed at the beginning, like I said, I had the DVDs, was watching the first season on the DVD, and then I've rewatched it on the Blu-ray, and everything seems much crisper on the Blu-ray.
Does it?
All the effects shots, the ships, Babylon 5 moving through space and the ships. So I think that I don't know if it's recorded at a better, the original DVDs are at television.
Let me ask you a question.
Quality.
Is season 1 4:3 or is it a full screen?
No, it's full screen. Well,
no, on the Blu-ray.
On
the Blu-ray.
On the Blu-ray, it fills the full screen. There is no, except for the opening. It's kind of interesting. The opening sequence is in a like a windowed box. It doesn't fit the proper size of the television.
You get the black bars at the top and
bottom.
That's
the fourth.
No, the whole thing is all. Oh no, but it's not in square. It's not 4:3. It looks like it's longer, but it doesn't fit your. It's
I see what they did.
It's obviously the opening sequence was recorded at a lower resolution than what the show is at.
I could see that.
Drake might be right. Blu-ray's at 4:3, but it doesn't. It stands out with the fact that the opening sequence is in a windowed box, right? You're watching it normally, and then it fills the screen, and then you're like, oh.
I'm trying to think of when did HD come out?
But anyway,
they must have upscaled it for the DVD.
It seems to look so I'm not in a good position to say that because the original, like I said, I watched the DVD and it seemed like a normal, like when back in the day when we watched on television, it wasn't that, the pixels weren't that bright. It wasn't that
right. You weren't watching on a flat panel. You still had a tube TV.
Yeah.
Now for those of you out there who who are just starting, they've just started watching this show and wondering, the episodes, and you don't have the Blu-ray or the DVD, you can go over to Tubi TV, and they have all the episodes available free of charge on there, the entire 5 seasons and the Gathering.
Yeah, and the DVD box set that I got, which is 2 big cases, I picked up at a local Walmart. They actually had several copies at various Walmarts, so you may be able to find the DVDs at Walmart. So you definitely can find it. I did not see the Blu-rays at any Walmarts. So if you want it on Blu-ray, probably gonna have to order it online or watch it on Tubi. Yeah, if you want to stream it. So glad to hear Tubi's got it.
They've had it for a while. I think it's also on It's back on Amazon also.
Is it? Okay.
It's back on Amazon Prime.
I could have watched it sitting here, but while I was
And
working.
for those of you who want to purchase the Blu-ray, it's $84 on Amazon.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
And the DVD box set was $59 or something like that. So it wasn't unreasonable. So, at any rate, excellent.
So, and just
Good show.
what Drake is saying, for me, it's just the opening sequence, like the Babylon 5, blah blah blah, like it's in everyone. That's the only one that's not in the window, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the CG, yeah, Tubi is free.
All right, let's do our in trivia questions.
Oh yeah, trivia.
Let me just make sure I got the right ones. All right, I don't want to give.
Can't wait to see these.
I picked the most obscure one.
Did you ask what the code was for the? You sure did, didn't you?
You'll see. Yeah. Yeah. In what episode do we first see Delin constructing the device she finishes? How long had the dead lurker Petrov been an informant? You can ignore question number 3. That refers, in what episode do we see the second lurker who gives Garibaldi info? That refers to a season 2 episode. That happens.
Oops,
later.
you screwed up.
Yeah, that's a season 2 episode. In what month does Catherine prefer to have their wedding? How many shadow ships attack the Narn outpost? And what is the code on the jamming device found by Garibaldi?
I have that.
Yeah,
I wrote it down.
Yeah,
but it seemed kind of pointless to say it. So sorry, you have to go watch it.
So those are the questions for next time. We'll give you the answers on the next episode, and the next episode is going to be next week. We're going to have the season 1 wrap up. So we're going to get together. We're going to talk about the whole season.
Jason should be back.
Jason should be back for them. He's supposed to be back tomorrow sometime. So
he might even have a show this week.
Yeah, he mentioned to me that probably not. He'll probably take it.
No, you don't think he's going to do Friday?
Well, maybe he might.
We'll see. Who is having a show tomorrow?
You are.
Yeah, we are having a show tomorrow though.
Oh.
We are doing the Dead from the Dugout, which is the Live from the Bunker replacement show. When Jason is lazy, we take over and try to do the job. And Madman is going to be on the show tomorrow.
That's right.
And he's going to be doing the end of the week wrap up of this sort of the sci-fi.
Oh, you're going to join us next week?
He's joining us tomorrow. He's going to do a the sci-fi and pop culture news wrap up. We're going to talk about a lot little stuff tomorrow at what time? It's at 12 Central, noon.
1 p.m. my time.
1 p.m.
Also,
Central
check your listing on that. I think you have it as 1 a.m. the 6th.
Oh, do I? I'll go in and change that right away after this.
Snob can't tell. He can't set time right. He did that before.
Yeah. True. Otherwise, we're doing it in like 2 hours.
We're on metric time.
Yeah. Oh, we just started.
Yeah. Also, for those who are listening in the chat, Tubi works on pretty much everything. You can get it on apps.
Roku.
Roku. No, not Roku. It's an app by itself. You can load an app on your TV, tablet, or phone.
No, I'm pretty sure there's a Tubi.
So we
app.
want to. Yeah, there's
thank
everybody.
Yeah. That's when they say Roku. I mean, you load apps on your Roku.
Okay, we want to thank everybody. It'll be
Got me
when
there.
is it? James, we're confusing. I'll
How do you
switch
think I
it
got
right now.
MLB on?
If you subscribe, you'll get the right time to the channel. You get the right
Get
time.
on the Discord.
But it will be tomorrow, noon Central, which is the usual time that Jason has his show. So yeah, I'll fix that if I made a mistake. What else is coming up? What did I miss? We have our
Sunday show.
regular. Oh, next week on the show, like I said, we're going to do the wrap up. Yeah, we'll talk about the whole season. We haven't decided on the format. Probably we'll go through the various characters and the
Arcs.
storylines.
We'll try and talk arcs for the characters.
Arcs. Yeah. Best episodes, worst episodes, maybe. Yeah, we'll talk about it and figure out exactly what we're gonna talk about. But yeah, it should be good.
There was some bad episodes. Yeah. I think we ragged on a few times.
Thanks to everyone who came and watched the show live. Right now we're at my thing is saying is we got 36 people. We've had between 30 upwards of up to 40 for the whole show, so that's great. We appreciate you guys coming in. I mean, we like doing the show, but we like interacting with the chat. That's the important thing. People coming out and talking with us.
Yeah, we like
show.
interacting with you. Sometimes we get distracted.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
All right. Any guests have anything to talk about for their own shows? Madman.
We still have continuing videos going on. The insanity that's going on with age verification. What do we have coming up? I don't even remember. I know. Oh no, tomorrow is Thursday, so that's Otaku Thursday. So my talk with animation, anime. So that's coming up tomorrow. If you missed today's episodes, which was the rest of the Indonesian arrest of the U.S. citizen for having certain things on his phone, and the country of Luxembourg tells France to where to stick it with their age verification laws. If you want to catch those on my channel.
Is anime still illegal in Texas?
The law, we still haven't heard anything that he signed it or not. It's still up in the air, and I think that they're going to hold to see if anybody's going to sue.
Oh, I'm sure.
There's going to be some lawsuits, I think, from Sony, from Amazon, from Netflix.
Oh yeah. It'll be interesting. So follow your show. Let me see.
Yep.
Let's see. I know. Follow your show.
Yeah, Taco Thursday tomorrow, 6 p.m. Eastern, both here YouTube and on Rumble as well.
Let me give you. It's on the Cuticast show, right?
Mm-hmm.
I will pull it up, and I will put. If I can find you, I know I sub. Where is it?
Right. Cam.
Anyway.
Nothing to promote, but my appearances on the Sci-Fi Snap channel. So again, just want to say appreciate everyone for coming out and watching the episode live. It was a good time.
Yeah, it's great.
And
I think this is our best watched show so far. This show for this season, live viewers wise.
To the moon.
To the moon.
I'm putting it up here. Check out Mad Benz.
Thank you.
So,
all right, thank you everybody for coming out.
Yeah.
Weekend also. Last thing is the Top Lofty Lounge, of course, is on Sunday. Don't have a topic yet, but I'm sure we'll have one by then. Hopefully, I'm sure we will. We'll figure something out. All right, yeah. Thanks again. Please like and subscribe. Put anything in the comments. We appreciate you coming by. Good night, everybody.
Be seeing you.
Oh, you fixed it.